Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And PerGron.
And welcome to part 2 of our top 20 favorite films of 2024, which is, appropriately enough, basically just the top 10 list. Yeah. So we're not going to waste any time here, folks. We're going to stick to the same order that we did on the first part of this, which is going to be Dragon first, then myself, then PerGron. Dragon, before you say your number 10, why don't you remind the folks of what your 20 through 11 were, and then we'll get to your number 10.
Okay. All right, so number 20 was Red One. Number 19 was Beetlejuice. Number 18 was Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Number 17 was Knox Goes Away. Number 16 was Casa Bonita, Mi Amor. Number 15 was Music by John Williams. Number 14 was Self-Reliance. Number 13, Doc of Chucky. Number 12, Idea Man, Jim Henson. Number 11, If.
All right, what's your number 10?
It's so funny you ask. I'm about to tell you. So number 10 is The Fall Guy.
Oh my god. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm feeling unwelcome at this.
I'm so sorry,
at this countdown. I already regret coming on for it. So
no, I don't. I'm not judging you. I'm just like.
Oh, really? That's not a judgment. Oh God, that's not a judgment.
I just did not respond to the movie, Dragon. There's plenty of other people that like this movie as much as you do. Go ahead.
All right, look. I love how David Leitch directs a movie. I do. God help me, I do. I love that this was a personal film for him, given his history as a stunt guy, and I think that was reflected well in the material. Honestly, I kind of went in fresh in that I thought it was coincidence that we call it The Fall Guy. I didn't know it was like him kind of, in a sense, it was kind of like a soft reboot of the TV show. It's basically, it's kind of running with the same premise, but I can't really tell you how close it is to the original. Mm-hmm. But, I think it stands on its own rather well. And I thought that was, I think that was to its benefit that it, wasn't fully dependent on like a source material, and you can kind of go into it clean, just on the fun of it being a David Leitch, movie with, Ryan Gosling. I think it's a fun industry call-out movie. The action is great. We're kind of showing, behind the curtain what goes into the stunts that we all marvel at. And especially in kind of like the post, John Wick era, we're kind of showing, well, this is the work that goes into it, but that's kind of the plot of the movie, though. I thought that was kind of clever, and it was kind of fun. I think it's a solid movie. However, I will note this: the issue with David Leitch seems to be he always adds on to the ending because he feels it needs to measure up to the previous like two acts, specifically Act 1. That seems to be kind of his kryptonite and kind of a thing he keeps doing, where it's always like there's always something in the third act where it feels like either tacked on or he's just kind of like searching for what can I add here? What can I spice it up? When it's like, no, David Leitch, don't add the spices. We're all good here. You're corrupting the recipe. Don't do it.
There's a Dune joke in here somewhere.
But yeah, here's the look. There's no Bullet Train. I like Bullet Train more than I like this movie. But
Bullet Train was your number 1 of that year, right?
I don't think it was number 1.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Of that year?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That was what, 2022? That was 22, right?
Something like that.
I mean, it was high up
there. I'm like 90% sure.
You can't remember what you had for breakfast. How do you know that?
Because I was surprised. Please don't be offended when I say this, Dragon. I love this about you. I was surprised that it wasn't a superhero movie.
Okay.
That's how I remember it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, regardless, again, it's no Bullet Train. I love Bullet Train. This, I like this though. I think it's it's a nice tribute to the hard work of the stunt performers and everything that they do. And again, it's got it was just really fun. I could see myself rewatching the Fall Guy, not as much as Bullet Train, but I could see myself rewatching it.
Cool. Alrighty. So yeah, for myself, for my number 10, or to start with, I'll go over my my list so far. Oh my god, fucking Facebook messages that won't close.
Again.
Oh my god, Dragon, you're right. I do need a pen and paper. You're absolutely fucking right. This is awful.
We got to bring Tiki back to the 18th century.
I was fucking rocking the pen and paper in like high school, bro.
Like you said, the 18th century.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Shots fired, man. I'm like, what, like 6 years older than you, dude?
I don't know.
Okay, you know what? This is not working on my laptop.
Oh.
I'm so sorry, folks.
Well,
So
then why can't you listen to me when I advise you on these things?
This seriously is like okay, I got it. All right, we have number 20, The Bike Riders. Number 19, Juror Number 2. Number 18, Flow. Number 17, The Last Showgirl. Number 16, I Saw the TV Glow. Number 15, Memoir of a Snail. Number 14, Smile 2. Number 13, Piece by Piece. Number 12, Dee Dee. And number 11, Wicked. And for my number 10, you guys are going to be probably a little bit surprised by this. It's going to be none other than our main man himself, Nosferatu.
Nosferatu.
Yeah, man. This is one of those things where, like, I struggle with this movie. It's obviously, like, as far as vampire movies go, as far as Dracula movies go, it's got to be up there. Like, I'm not ready to call it the best of all time. I'm not ready to say it's better than, like, the Bela Lugosi Dracula, just because it's, like, thing's a fucking stone cold classic, and this thing just came out. Like, I'm not ready to, like, the Bela Lugosi Dracula has so much of a legacy behind it. But I feel a little bit at arm's length with this movie while still being able to really respect it. I don't know though, man. I for me, it's pretty definitively like a notch below The Witch, and obviously a couple notches below The Lighthouse. And PerGron and I have had this discussion off air. It's mostly just because of the fact that The Witch and The Lighthouse were both like very audacious, completely original, like you had never seen anything like this before type of movies, like let alone horror movies. Forget the horror, just movies in general. And Nosferatu is just like a really solid Dracula movie. I'm sorry, but for me, as far as like what appeals to me about Eggers, it's kind of a step down. It's still really good though. I mean, I feel like as far as like the ensemble cast in this movie goes, it's Robert Eggers' best ensemble cast to date, which is definitely an achievement. The production design is absolutely immaculate. The sound design is just really, really crunchy. I mean, I respect a lot of it. I really like the ending, and I honestly am surprised more people aren't talking about like how impactful. Like I like movies that end on just like a singular visual that's really memorable, and Nosferatu definitely has that. I don't know though. This just doesn't really feel like a movie that I'm gonna go back to a ton, as much as I respect it. So I think starting out the top 10 list is a good place for it for me. It definitely deserves to be in the top 10. For me, I'm not overly passionate about my love for it, but like I said, it's more of a respect than a love. But I have a lot of respect for it, though.
Mm-hmm.
All right, PerGron, go ahead.
Yeah, we're gonna see that one a little higher on my list.
Yeah,
although you guessed that it would be number one, it is not.
Yeah.
So my 20 through 11 was Alien Romulus, Dee Dee, A Different Man, Conclave, Kneecap, My Old Ass, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Wicked, Challengers, and Late Night with the Devil. And at my number 10, I've got a movie you had on your last list. I Saw the TV Glow.
All right, for
Um,
sure.
This was a movie that I went into having adored We All Go to the World's Fair. Like, that was in
Still
my
to this
top.
day, one of the best podcasts
Yeah.
I've ever recorded is that one with you. Just
That was a really good
got
one.
into some deep shit.
Yeah, and I love that movie. So seeing Jane Schoenbrunn do another movie, this time with a studio like A24 backing her, even though A24 kind of had a rough year, it's still nice to see her get a little bit more like studio love, getting to do still an independent thing, but get a little bit more behind it. And yeah, this really stuck the landing for me. I agree with your criticisms on Justice Smith because he's just an awkward actor.
Right.
And he ended up in my top 10 and my bottom 10 of the year. But I think the awkwardness worked for this movie because the character is a very awkward, like, doesn't know their place in the world kind of character.
Sure.
So it didn't bother me as much as it did in, like, Detective Pikachu or whatever.
Oh my god. Oh, he's fucking intolerable in that movie.
Yeah, I wanted to love that movie too.
So did I.
But I really like this movie, and this is coming from the perspective I am not in the LGBT community at all. I am a straight cis white dude. I am about as generic as they get. So this movie obviously wasn't made with me in mind. And I think for the people that this was made for, based on everything I've talked to, my friends who are in that
Raise his hand.
It's definitely the trans movie of the year that has not rubbed people the wrong way in its depiction of transness.
Oh, yeah.
There are two other movies I saw this year that are significantly worse in that.
The other one's The People's Joker, right?
That's my worst of the year. I feel bad.
That's your absolute bottom.
That ended up being the
really?
bottom of the year.
Oh, holy shit! Oh, wow!
I really
hated it that much.
I really reflected on it. I'm like, is this worse than Megamind? And if I had to rewatch one of them,
that's fair. I'd
rewatch Megamind.
Megamind at least has like the ironic factor going.
Right.
Again, the sequel to Megamind, just for the kids.
Yes. Yeah. No, the first Megamind.
Let's be clear. It's Megamind versus
the Doom Syndicate.
That's what I want to clarify. I don't want the besmirchment of the original going on.
But yeah, so this movie though, it really, really hit for me. I am so excited for whatever Jane Schoenbrunn does next. She is in my top 10 up and coming directors just to keep an eye on. So far, both movies she's put out have been in my top 10 of their respective year. So, yeah.
Alrighty, Dragon, number 9.
All right, number 9. Woman of the Hour.
Okay, that's respectable for sure.
By the way, should we have recapped like our criteria, or you think we're good? You think they get it at this point?
I think they get it at this point. You know what? I guess sure. Just to recap, go ahead. It's fine.
I mean, folks, just again, bear in mind, we're in the top 10, which I feel strongly about. Like the top 10, we're pretty much locked in there. I had one surprise one that kind of creeped in there, but essentially the top 10, I was kind of comfortable in where they are. But essentially, the list criteria overall is a simple mix of rewatchability, the experience, the watch experience, and quality of the movies. It's kind of a combination of those three factors and where things ended up. So there you go.
For me, I guess we can just all three say them really quick, just so the timing's not work on it. For me, it's very similar to you, Dragon. I like this is the year that I've taken rewatchability most into account. Like that for me is like almost the biggest criteria. The second biggest criteria is probably going to be cultural impact, and then the other I don't know what I'm trying to say. I was going to say quadrant, but it's not 4 things; it's 3 things.
The trident.
Yeah. The other thing is watch experience, viewing experience for sure.
The trifecta.
There you go.
Right. And mine was movies I liked.
Love it.
Well, we can't say he's wrong about that.
No.
Anyway, Okay, so number 9, Woman of the Hour. So this is Anna Kendrick's directorial debut, and I think she did a splendid job with it. Essentially adapts a true story about the dating game killer, which is a story I really was unfamiliar with. I know the dating game, of course, we all know the dating game thanks to Mallrats, but yeah. So this I love the edit on this film. I found it very captivating with the just the genuinely palpable tension of this killer, and just he was just the way we opened the movie just showed this sick and twisted thing that he did, which I have to assume is like it's too specific to just kind of throw in there. It just feels like he would essentially strangle the victims to leave them breathless, and then he would resuscitate them to do it again. Like, oh my god, this guy was a piece of work. But yeah, this is all again, all of this framed around this chilling, like, real life TV moment of like there is essentially there's a serial killer on national television and no one was the wiser, and he essentially won the game. It's just something really just utterly kind of chilling about it, just like the danger in the room. It's just again, just I found this movie gobsmackingly good. I think it really is what we need to shake up like true crime, just the way this was presented. Like this is kind of like a crime biopic that I kind of wanted to, or at least kind of based on a true story, true crime thing that I think because again we're at a point where it's kind of been there, done that, seen them all. So this is the kind of thing we need to kind of shake it up. Like we had one of these movies from a perspective of character that felt very much like a narrative before it felt like we're just retelling the events of like we're versus like a cash in like and here's a tragedy and we're doing a biopic on basically Netflix's bread and butter most usually these days.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, this felt not indulgent in that. This felt it wasn't a cash grab like that. This just felt like there's an interesting story here, and we're kind of seeing it really through the victims, but not in like I don't know, it had like a personal touch to it. And honestly, the only reason, again, honestly, with the top 10 here, the only reason this is not higher, it's stiff competition. That's frankly what it is. There's nothing really wrong with this movie. I love it.
Okay, cool.
yeah, I like that it wasn't in the like perspective of the killer. I think that stuff is like predatory.
Yeah.
Like the one with Quicksilver there, the Dahmer one.
Tiki?
But Dad, you don't like my movie, Dad? Dragon and I have made a meal of how Evan Peters
very, very, very poor choice of words, Tiki, but yes.
Well, you know what how Evan Peters like pronounce it. But Dad.
Dad, PerGron liked my movie, Dad. We should watch his channel.
Oh, God. All right.
Anyway.
Okie dokie. So, I also want to point out that I actually did sub out one of the things in my top 10. I did have A Different Man in my top 10. But, honestly, kind of like, I really, really like that movie a lot. But when I thought about it, like, I was mostly just putting it on there just because, like, I thought it was really unique. And I really like Sebastian Stan's performance. But I'm not really grading these things on either uniqueness or performances. Like, it didn't really fall into any of my actual three main criteria. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, my number 9, which is the movie that I swapped A Different Man out with, is it's going to be The Substance, baby. I did not feel right not putting The Substance in my list.
Quite substantial.
Yeah. I've only seen this once, but I imagine it is going to be pretty fun on a rewatch. Like, I think one of the best things it has going for it is simply that it's got a lot of memorable moments in it. Dennis Quaid eating the shrimp, the Hollywood Walk of Fame star montage at the beginning. Of course, all the crazy body horror stuff at the end, the mirror shot. There's a lot of already iconic stuff in this movie. So I definitely think it's got the cultural impact. As a horror fan who thinks that horror movies are just like woefully underrepresented in awards contention, it's been so fun seeing this movie just like sneak in there, and now suddenly it's like Demi Moore is like a front runner to win Best Actress. What? What is going on? Where was this the year Hereditary came out? Because by all intents and purposes, I'm sorry, I loved Demi Moore. That was an even more impressive performance.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I just think the imagery of the substance, I do think it runs a little long in the tooth, which is why it's not a little bit higher. But I don't know. There's just something like it's not the most original movie in the world, but the way that it does tell the story and just the blunt force, like, just hit you over the head symbolism. I honestly think one of my least favorite parts of it is just how much it's not just like a stylistically Kubrick. It's like they're straight up like, yeah, we're good. I don't like the fact that we just like, yeah, we got the shining carpets, I don't like the fact that it's in some areas it kind of just becomes like Kubrick fan fiction almost. But I don't know. I think there's a lot going for it. I think obviously it's got a good message about aging and the way Hollywood treats women, or frankly, the way society treats women in general with the aging process. I think it's a very powerful message there. And yeah, I definitely think it's worthy of being in the top 10. It's definitely cemented itself among the greats. It's going to be one of those movies that when you think about 2024, that's going to pop to mind. All right, PerGron, you're number 9.
All right, I'm going to keep the horror train rolling a little bit because my number 9 is Heretic.
You know what? I feel like if the movie was as good in the first half as it was in the second half, or I'm sorry,
vice versa.
Yeah, it was as good in the second half as it was in the first half. I feel like it probably would have a spot on my list, but yeah, go ahead, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one, yeah, I agree with you. If it was a little better in the second half, or as good in the second half as it was in the first.
Oh, man. The first time I was watching the first half, I was so locked into it.
Yeah, this was in my top 5 for a while. For like a long while. It ended up dropping, but I had to keep it in my top 10. Like I said with Conclave last time, I love a good religious commentary.
Sure.
I find that kind of stuff really interesting, and the framing device of like this movie sold to you as Saw but Mormon. And a lot of people were disappointed that we didn't get that. I was so locked in with the TED talk he was giving that I did not need any of those horror elements. Honestly, when the horror elements started coming in was when it started to lose me a little bit.
Yeah.
But really, the performance from Hugh Grant is a career-defining performance. This was my number 2 performance of the year behind Kieran Culkin in A Real Pain. Like, this was a really, 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 really good performance. The girls were very good as well. I love the ending. This is my favorite ending of a movie of the year. Like the ending final 2 seconds of the movie.
Really? It's your favorite of the year?
It's my favorite of the year.
It's a good ending, but that's kind of surprising.
No, I love the ending of this one.
Okay, that's
favorite of the year, when that butterfly is there and then it's not there, leaving it up to the audience interpretation. I thought that was the perfect way to cap the movie.
I mean, fair enough. Nice.
But yeah, I mean, it loses itself a little bit. It definitely thinks it's smarter than it is, kind of like an r/atheist post or something.
Right.
But Hugh Grant makes a Jar Jar Binks impression, and that alone gets it on my top 10.
Oh, God. All right. Okay, yeah, moving right along. We're going to go to number 8. Dragon, what do we got?
Hitman.
Okay, that's a respectable one for sure. I really like that.
Yeah. Look,
Dragon, you just said your first 2 weren't respectable. Are you going to stand for this?
No, I'm saying it's getting better. It's getting better. Like, I agree with these picks more the more we go along.
Yeah.
Like, the Fall Guy, I was like, oh, what? I'll admit that. I'll admit that with the Fall Guy. I'm not afraid to admit that.
He doesn't value my opinion at all on anything.
Well, Dragon, like I already set up, like I'm the indie movie guy. Like I'm the auteur, art house fuck, which is a very you can make fun of my movie taste all you want. It's fine. I mean I'm like the A24 guy. PerGron is the I will literally see everything guy. And Dragon, you're the people's champ. You're the people's champ. So, there's nothing wrong with that.
I bestow the belt upon you.
Right.
Anyway,
All right, go ahead, Dragon.
So Hitman. Might not be for everyone, but I gotta be honest. I think I forget if I've seen him in anything else. I'm just blanking on this is I think my proper introduction to Glenn Powell.
Have you not seen Top Gun Maverick?
No.
Okay, yeah, that would probably be the main thing you would.
Well, that's the thing. I'm saying I can't remember if I've seen him in anything before that because he seems
familiar.
You
didn't watch the hit film,
Oh my god!
Anyone But You.
That was him.
That was him and Sydney Sweeney. Yeah.
Yes.
No, I didn't see that. I thought, man, he was really generic in that poster. Anyway, point being, so this is kind of I think a proper introduction for me to Glenn Powell. I heard a lot of hype around this, and that's why I ultimately checked it out. And I tell you, it was absolutely warranted, man. This is a wonderfully clever story. Apparently, it's based off like an article that was written. I assume like the real life kind of like there was a like a teacher who basically ended up kind of falling into kind of the snuffing kind of sussing out the people who've hired contract killers kind of thing. At least to some degree, a guy who worked tech for that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so basically, like the college person moonlighting as the tech guy for the sting operations here. But I love the notion of just, like we call out the media misnomer of the hitman early on, which I was just that's when the movie really hooked me. Like, oh my God, it just like turns everything we know from pop culture on its ear. And I'm so dialed in right now. It's very smart. Glenn Powell, he's masterful in the role of hitman and kind of hitman for every occasion, for every connoisseur. I gotta be honest though. Here's what really sells me on Hitman. Here's kind of why it makes the top 10 in large part, aside from just the cleverness. I love the unconventional love story at the heart of this film. I really do. It's genuinely sweet, and this is gonna sound weird. It's kind of naturally sensual, which is so rare. I felt. Just the way we kind of way we depict like two people fall in love. I thought the fact they kind of have like this this kind of like private little hideaway. Again, it's a love that's kind of based on deception, but it's like in terms of all the times we've seen those stories, there was something kind of special about the way we did it here.
Yeah,
and
I feel you.
There's some fun twists here and there, especially towards the end, and just again the fact that there's somewhat of a real life basis, especially given how the movie ends, is kind of fun when you factor that in. Like, okay, well, I would hope we deviate a little bit there, but again, I love that we're playing with formula here, and it's not like the same movie that we keep seeing. Especially as Tiki is always going on about. It's not like it's we're not doing kind of like a John Wick fare here and there. Like this isn't an action movie. Like I think a name like
too much.
You do all the time. It always it's a knife to the heart every time you say it. Every time.
Yeah, it's just fucking John Wick.
One thing though, I love that this thing. You go into Hitman. I'm sure a lot of people are expecting. Okay, it's gonna be like that killer movie that Michael Fassbender did. Not remotely that movie.
No.
Nothing against that movie. I'm just saying a lot of people I think hearing this name would expect it to be that.
Oh.
So this is delightful and something I would definitely go back and rewatch.
Alrighty. Okay, Kogias has been keeping us up to date on his list, and gotta say it's not what I would have picked, but respect. I respect everyone's opinions. He's saying, yeah, maybe not Megamind versus the Doomed Syndicate being number 12, unless you only saw 12 movies this year. It says number 10 is Despicable Me 4. It's not the best film in the franchise, but it's better than I was expecting.
That's actually accurate though.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I feel like at least his explanations are on point. I'll give him credit for that. He's saying my number 9 is he saw 15 films. Okay, I mean, yeah.
Come on.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying at least if we're grading his placement of Megamind versus the Doom Syndicate, it would still get an F. So,
Not a fat F though. It's a mid-sized F.
Right. He's saying my number 9 is Madam Web. It's an entertainingly campy film that I consider a fun time. I'm not gonna lie, low key, I do agree with that. Honestly, out of all the bad Sony Spider-Verse movies, it is the one that I think is the most fun, like so bad it's good movie. So I'll kind of sign off on that. Number 8 is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. It's an entertaining journey of nostalgic feelings. I'm not a Ghostbusters guy, so I'm not going to comment on that. I did not see.
He has no ghostly whimsy, friend.
I am probably the most anti Ghostbusters person, dude. I have no feelings for that franchise.
I just try to go like, hey, Tiki, what about the Twinkie joke? He says, what about the Twinkie joke? He always gets all dour on me.
I just don't think it's the best 80s high concept comedy.
No one's saying it's the
Bill Murray movie.
No one's saying it's that.
But people put it on such a pedestal, though.
Because it's fun. That's it.
All
it's just fun.
Anyways.
The Marshmallow Man. He's tearing up New York.
Okay.
Code Geass is right, though. It is nostalgic because they literally stuff every character from every Ghostbusters movie ever in the movie. So
I mean, especially my beloved character Podcast. A character who I've literally not seen 1 second of screen time of. I just know from discussions. My beloved Podcast. All right. Okay, so yeah, my number 8 is going to be, this is a movie that kind of, it's sort of been on a journey as far as like my placements. So landing here at number 8, it's going to be Hundreds of Beavers.
Okay.
Here's the thing with Hundreds of Beavers that I'm conflicted on. I don't necessarily feel like it's a great rewatch if you're watching it alone. That being said, I think it's such a good movie night pick. I think it's such a fun movie to show people. My only issue with it really is that I got like 2 issues with it, basically.
It's 2 beavers too many.
Number 1, I think it actually takes a little too long. I feel like we spend a little bit too much time at the beginning just focusing on like the wilderness survival element. Like I understand it's like building up the, like the environmental puzzle stuff, but I just kind of think the first part of the movie drags a little bit. But again, it's like when I'm watching it for the first time, it's like, no, this is all like really cool. It's just, you want to get to the beavers, man. It actually, for a movie called Hundreds of Beavers, it takes quite a bit of time to get to the hundreds of beavers.
Yeah, there's a significant lack of beavers there at the beginning.
I know. It's almost disquieting. But then my other issue with it is that I just think it's a little bit repetitive. I honestly feel like this movie could have been a clean 90 minutes, even 80 minutes, honestly, and you wouldn't have really lost that much. But other than that, I mean, this is just a sheer, like, it's so unique. It's so cool to see, like, such low budget indie filmmaking, but on a big scale. Like, I feel like this movie is just like that perfect, like, combination of like low budget, but just like you do so much with it. Ironically enough, also my number 7 is also very much a movie like that, but literally the exact polar opposite as far as like the type of movie that it is. I think you can guess what that would be. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a super unique movie. I was really going ham with it on the Golden Tikis just because I think a lot of it does deserve respect. Doug Manchesky, I'm sorry, dude. He's my favorite comedic performance of the year as the shopkeeper. He really is. That guy is so memorable. His facial expressions, the spitting gag. I mean, there's so much stuff with that guy that's like, I feel like he almost steals the show from the lead performer in some ways. But yeah, just a super unique movie. The visuals are obviously awesome. Dragon, I really see it's free on YouTube. You need to check this thing out, man. I mean, I know I have no room to talk because I'm bad at watching stuff that you recommend, but I know it's literally like a live action Looney Tunes short or a live action Looney Tunes movie, and it's delightful. It's just pretty much everything that I love in a good movie, and I do think it's going to be one of those movies where certainly the Letterboxd crowd adores it now, but I think as time goes on, I feel like more and more people are going to discover it, and it's going to be like more and more of a cult classic as time goes on. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dragon. It really does feel like a movie that would be right up your alley.
It really does. Yeah. All right, PerGron, you're number 8.
All right, my number 8 is going to be A Complete Unknown.
How does it feel?
I am a giant Bob Dylan fan. Not as much as you are, Tiki, it seems. I always thought I was a big
dude. I marinate in Bob Dylan.
I always thought I was a giant Bob Dylan fan, and then I met you. But, he's pretty consistently in my top 3 Spotify end of year artists. I also love Pete Seeger. I love Joan Baez.
Ooh, Pete Seeger is such a bad man. What a villain.
He is the nicest man alive, and you leave him alone. But I love Joan Baez. I love folk music in general, especially like 60s, 70s folk. So even though I'm not a fan typically of music biopics, this one is probably the highest I've ever ranked one. So yeah, I mean it follows all the same beats and everything that you kind of expect. It doesn't do a ton of unique stuff with it, but I do like that the time period that they picked really was his transition to electric. I love that. I love Timothée Chalamet's performance. I love how much time and effort he put into really capturing this character. It took him 5 years, he said. He learned guitar, he learned how to sing. That's commitment to the bit. I love all the performances here, really.
Dude, Anthony Fantano came out with a review of this where I was like, really, Anthony? You're gonna nitpick it that hard, dude?
I'm pretty consistently on the side that's like, Fantano, shut the fuck up.
No, I feel you. I barely even watch him unless he's talking about something that we know.
He took Better Man money to fucking advertise that movie. I don't want to hear shit about the Bob Dylan one. But yeah, I thought this was a perfectly serviceable and incredibly enjoyable. I love that they sang it live, or at least he did the singing. I thought all the performances were great. Monica Barbaro really stuck out to me as a side performance, as did what's his name? Ed Norton as Pete Seeger.
Scoot McNairy as well.
Scoot McNairy as Woody Guthrie without any dialogue. Very, very good performance.
Fucking Boyd Holbrook. I mean, I think the whole cast is stacked.
I know that James Mangold already did the Johnny Cash movie with Joaquin Phoenix, but I hate Joaquin Phoenix. So if he wants to remake it with Boyd Holbrook, I will be happy to buy the first ticket. But yeah, I mean, I love the music in this movie. I love this movie. It made it into my top 8. It's the highest I've ever put a music biopic. It's better than Better Man. So if you're gonna go watch one of the
it's fucking funny how much Better Man just flopped so
tanked.
Hard. It was, oh my god, when I found out that it was it flopped worse than the fucking Megalopolis, I was like, what? How is that even possible?
Even in the UK, it flopped.
That's crazy. Yeah.
But yeah, and this is also a movie that I think we really need in these times. It's bringing back music that I think is beneficial to us in 2025.
Hey, timely! Look what day it is. Right. Oh, dude, can I just say, just no, I'll save it for off air because I don't want to date this podcast. Just to say, this has been a day, dude. This has been a day. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyways. Alrighty. Yeah, let's loop back around. Dragon, you're number 7.
Transformers 1.
Oh, come on! No, I'm kidding. Respect.
Yeah, so I recently watched this one. And I want to be clear. The reason I'm shocked that I kind of made it so high myself, but I am not a Transformers guy at all, really. But this really impressed me.
So far and away the best Transformers movie ever made. It's
I
literally feel bad for all the other Transformers movies.
Yeah,
I don't. They made their money.
So Josh Cooley, director of Toy Story 4, he I think having him on this really helped in the story
This definitely
department.
feels like it's got some Pixar DNA in the storytelling.
It's kind of a Toy Story 5. The Transformers are toys.
Oh God, that's not what I meant. But yeah,
Yeah, so basically, it's a Transformers movie with a point. It's a solid origin story. It's something that we haven't told like a million times in feature form. I love I love the Optimus and Megatron backstory and the arc that unfolds there. I thought that was the strength of the movie, and it was very compelling. Josh Cooley, again, he must. I gotta admit, all that said, he must really like Keegan Michael Key. You know, because he's. I think he's good. I think he's good. I think he's funny, but we have like the gag of he talks too much as playing Bumblebee. However, I think we kind of lack the payoff there, which is I think the gag is like okay, so he's really chatty, and then he would ultimately not be chatty, and that felt a little maybe a missed opportunity there.
I needed a moment where they just beat the shit out of Bumblebee and shut him up.
I'm saying we do the bit
the
with,
one good thing I like about Bumblebee is the AA Ron cameo.
But yeah, we do the bit worth. I believe it was Starscream. Really, we crushed his voice box or something. It feels like we would have done that as well with Bumblebee. We didn't do that. I think look again. I want to be clear. I like Gig Monkey, but it feels like the problem is like we don't really I think Josh Cooley lets him riff too much. That's what it feels like. Okay, just maybe let's not have him riff that much, Josh. Anyway, but aside from that, top marks across the board. I don't. Here's the thing. Obviously we don't have the the voiceover talent on this that we the traditionally like Peter Cullen and company and everyone, but this clearly we got actors who really turned in a solid performance. They sound like that's the divisive thing amongst the diehard Transformer fans. Of why couldn't we get the original voices? But you know what? To the movie's credit, Hemsworth playing Optimus Prime, he shows with the arc of the character, it is reflected in the performance. For by the end, he's sounding a lot more like Peter Cullen than he was at the start, and it feels like a very intentional choice.
Yeah, it's a good progression. This was a good year for Chris Hemsworth, honestly. Between that and Dementis.
And again, Brian Tyree Henry, he was flawless as Megatron. He did an excellent job as Megatron. So I'm down for a sequel. I hear they're doing a show. I don't know how that's going to go. It sounds like kind of a repeat of what Paramount.
Have we ever heard literally anyone ever talk about the show that spun off of Mutant Mayhem?
Well, that's what.
That's what's going to become of the Transformers One show.
Anyway, that's what I was getting at. It feels like kind of a repeat of that potential.
Right.
We have a movie that's pretty fun, so it's a good time, and then there's a show, and no one's really talking about the show. Anyway, but here's the thing: if they came back for
Paramount made Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is the best movie of the decade.
Don't spoil your number one, Tiki.
I'm sorry, Dragon. I'm sorry.
Anyway, here's the thing: if they actually did a feature sequel and Josh Cooley directed, I would definitely be back. That'd be the thing. Though, if Cooley comes back to direct, I'm down. He did a really good job with this. This was a pleasant surprise of the year for me.
Cool. All right, my number 7 is a movie that I thought to be intellectually stimulating, which is a quote that I think is going to be like as time goes on, that's going to be a big quote in this movie. The Brutalist. This is a fucking fascinating movie, dude. I'm just like, I am so enamored with it, but at the same time, like, much like the actual Brutalist architecture, it's at arm's length, but I feel like there's a point to it. One thing that I really, really respect about this movie is the fact that it's got the intermission, and not just. Here's the thing: it's nice that it has the intermission as far as like being able to take a break. Obviously, piss break in the middle of a 3.5 hour movie is very welcome.
But the flower moon.
Yeah. Oh my God. Dude,
sorry,
I'm sorry. As time goes on, that movie was a fucking slog. I did not enjoy that movie at all. It had a really good. It had some really good performances, but as I already established, performances don't really make a movie. No, I love the intermission because I think it splits up the story in a very, very deliberate way, where the first half is all about seeing Adrian Brody struggle. Like, he gets to the country, he's struggling, and then he comes upon Guy Pearce, who's essentially like promising Adrian Brody everything that he could ever dream of, as far as this guy is going to like hoist me out of poverty, and he's going to let me like do my art and like achieve my vision. And the first act ends on like this hopeful, triumphant note, but at the same time, you know it's going to go bad. And I love that, man. I seriously, like, the build up, the last couple minutes before the cut to intermission is seriously fucking thrilling. It's genuinely like goosebumps inducing fucking filmmaking. I mean, I'm not kidding around here. It's genuinely like, both times I've seen this movie, I was so on the edge of my seat. Here's another thing about this movie. It's 3.5 hours. It's ridiculously well paced. I cannot get over how both times I saw this movie, the time just fucking flies by. Honestly, by the time it got to the intermission both times, I was like, fuck, I could keep going a little while longer, you know? Like, do we really have to stop now? Damn it. You know? Here's the thing, though, and this is why it's not in my top 5, because honestly, dude, if the second half of this movie lived up to the first half of this movie, like we were saying with Hereditary, this would be in my top 5. It might even be my number 1, because the first half of this movie is truly incredible. It's like truly, truly, as the posters and the advertisements are saying, like monumental filmmaking. The pacing, the character work, the performances, the editing, just all of it is just so fucking delicious. And it's Dragon, you know that whole like this is a movie thing?
Yes.
No, this is like I was like just fucking radiating that energy in the first half, man. But then the second half happens. The second half is very, very deliberately meant to be at arm's length, and it takes some big swings in the story that I don't want to spoil, that are intentionally meant to be off-putting to the audience, and Brady Corbet has pretty much said as much. And it is. And it's a dark second half, and the movie goes into some dark territory. And I just, 2 times in, I like the ending more than I did the first time I saw it, because but honestly, mostly that's just because I did some studying up on what the ending actually like represents. It's not a great ending. It's not a cinematic ending. It's not an ending that leaves me like feeling like, whoa, like what the hell did I just watch? No, it's kind of like, oh, okay, that's the message you're gonna go out with, all right, I guess. Here's the thing, though, and I'll end on this: the character work in this movie, specifically the 2 leads, Adrian Brody as Laszlo Toth, and Guy Pearce is Harrison Van Buren, which tell me there's not a more waspy name in all of fucking Harrison Van Buren. I love that name. I love that name so much. These 2 are like the next Daniel Day-Lewis and Paul Dano and There Will Be Blood, man. I mean, they are just like, they are so magnetic. Like, the chemistry between them, and then also the tension, and just like, again, I don't want to spoil where it goes because it goes to some dark places, but it's Guy Pearce in particular. Honestly, PerGron, Guy Pearce might be my performance of the year. Okay. Like, he comes in like over an hour into the movie, but he literally, like, the only way I can describe his entrance into the movie is he comes in like a fucking bull in a china shop, dude. Like, he is like just on it. And he's so charming, but at the same time, his introduction tells you right away, this guy's a piece of shit. Like, this guy's a total, like, racist, bigoted, fucking old money piece of filth. But he's so charming, and he knows exactly what to say to Adrian Brody to get him on his side. And it's such a, oh, it's so good. It's so good. I love that character work so much. And without giving anything away about the second half, I honestly feel like I don't really like the resolution. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's one of those things. I'm kind of babbling about this movie because I'm fascinated by it. I'm genuinely fascinated by it. I respect the hell out of this movie, but I also think, again, it's very watchable, especially for 3.5 hours. I mean, the time just fucking flies by. Even in the second half, I don't like the second half as much as I like the first half. It's still really well paced. It still flies by. PerGron, I am so excited to when you finally
get to see it on Thursday.
Oh, thank God!
I have tickets for Thursday at 6 p.m.
Oh, I'm stoked.
So I'm excited to see it. I get to see the room next door as well too. I do get the 70 millimeter, yeah.
Nice.
But I got a couple catch up movies for the end of the year. Unfortunately didn't get them in before this, but yeah, I am excited. I'm a little nervous though because I don't know if you heard about the stuff that came out today.
Yeah, I did. Unfortunately,
yeah. So that's a little disappointing.
I'm just gonna play it like the late night with the devil situation, just kind of be like, you know what, whatever. I've already formulated my thoughts on it. I don't need to unpack that.
I just wonder how
this list tonight.
Right. I just wonder how it's going to impact Best Actor. That's kind of the one thing.
Ooh, yeah. Oh,
because they just had a whole protest about not having AI impact performances.
No.
So they had a whole strike about that. So I wonder if that is locking in Timothée Chalamet for Best Actor.
I wouldn't be like I said, I think out of the two performances, I think Guy Pearce's Adrian Brody's wonderful, but it's kind of like one of those things where like the pianist exists. It's a very similar role to the pianist. And with the AI, like Guy Pearce is just like Guy Pearce is just fucking just so magnetic in this movie. It's by far my favorite Guy Pearce performance I've ever seen. It's so good. I will say that this movie kind of like, as far as like how I feel about it, as far as like the Paul Thomas Anderson like movies where it's like essentially like two lead male characters, like very larger than life male characters. This definitely isn't There Will Be Blood, right? It's not going to be that. It's not as accessible as There Will Be Blood. It's not as digestible as There Will Be Blood. It certainly doesn't have the ending of There Will Be Blood. I mean, that's one of the things that really elevates that movie. But I like this movie a lot more than I like The Master, which is the other Paul Thomas Anderson movie that it's being compared to. So kind of fits like very comfortable right in the middle between those two for me. All right.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I fucking babbled on way too long about that movie. But once you see it, PerGron, you'll understand. There's a lot to unpack in this thing, man.
Yeah,
there's a lot to unpack.
We could do an 8-hour podcast about it.
I think we should, honestly. We'll talk about it off air. I definitely would be down to do a podcast on it.
Okay.
It'll be like our Skeleton Crew podcast where you and I are like we're just going to do it just to have the conversation.
Yeah, this is for us.
Right. All right. Number 7 for you, PerGron.
Yeah. Anyone see that light flickering on and off? Because I think here we have a Nosferatu.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, I'm an Eggman stan. We know this about me. The Lighthouse is my 3rd favorite movie of all time. It will never reach The Lighthouse at all. I adore that fucking movie, especially as a New Englander.
Of course.
But I love Robert Eggers' commitment to timeliness. I love his commitment to just lore and horror rules and all of that stuff. I think this is kind of the culmination of everything he's been building his career towards at this point. And for that, I think it's a rousing success. Thinking on it, I don't know if I put this one or The Witch at my number 2 spot. They're kind of both on par with each other for me. But yeah, I love this movie. I love the Dracula story to begin with. So it was very exciting. I love the bold swings they took with Count Orlok in this movie. I love the mustache. I get that people don't like the mustache. I love the mustache.
I'm not gonna lie.
I love the voice. I love the imagery. the work with shadows in this movie,
Oh
I
yeah,
think it's the best shadow work I've ever seen. I think.
Which I mean, and it's like I think it's very appropriate that it is that, considering that was like the big thing with the original
Right.
Nosferatu.
So yeah, I mean, this was my number one coming out of it. Like my recency bias, I'm glad we took a little bit of time to do this.
Sure.
Because my recency bias, I was riding high on this movie. I saw this and then A Complete Unknown back to back.
Yeah, that was a good weekend, man. That was a good weekend.
And then I saw Baby Girl, and that kind of sent it down.
Yeah. There's
not
people
the baby
that love Baby Girl, dude.
Yeah.
And I do not understand
I think
that.
they're freaks. I say that with love.
Like, if the movie was freakier, I'd respect it.
Yeah. But yeah,
it's the most fucking milquetoast movie about that subject matter I've ever seen.
Hey, you want a sexy movie without any sex in it?
Right?
You want a bondage movie where there's none? You want a movie that talks about consent and how important it is, and that's it? Because that's what you get. I mean, consent's important, but not in my sexy movie.
But like it's basically just a cheating movie. That's all it is.
Yep. But yeah, Nosferatu, Lily Rose Depp, also very high on my performances of the year.
Oh my god, she does stuff with her body. That's just incredible.
Yeah. Nicholas Hoult had a phenomenal year in general, as did Willem Dafoe. Even Aaron Taylor Johnson was tolerable in this movie.
I actually really like him. He was actually one of the things that stood out for me on a rewatch.
Yep. And
it's definitely my favorite performance of his so far. Yeah. Out of anything I've seen.
And Bill Skarsgård joins Justice Smith in the honor of being in both my top 10 and my bottom 10 of the year.
What was the bottom 10?
The Crow ended up in my
God. Oh, I forget about that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, so him and Justice Smith are the only two who get the coveted honor of being in my top 10 and my bottom 10.
I said it before, I'll say it again. Ralph Ineson in this movie has such an Alan Rickman vibe to me. It really stands out.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah, I mean, again, the ensemble here is the best of Eggers ensembles. Not counting The Lighthouse, which is an ensemble of two.
Well, yeah, sure. If you want to just of course.
Right, but yeah, I absolutely agree. Compared to like The Northman, which I wanted to love more than I did. I still like The Northman a lot, but I wanted to love it and I didn't.
I mean, The Northman, it's just like Robert Eggers, like, I don't think he necessarily needs to do a horror movie every time. But I feel like The Northman swung too hard into being like an action movie.
Yeah.
I don't think he's great at that. You know?
But,
like, I'd be down to see him just do a historical drama with no horror elements.
Yeah, but I love when he does the horror.
Of course.
But yeah, so the Nosferatu is my number 7.
Alrighty. Okay.
And Code Geass' number 7 is Inside Out 2.
So, which is, I'm honestly surprised I have that higher than Code Geass.
Code Geass has it higher than me. I have Inside Out 2 at 34.
All right.
Wait, what?
He said 34 for Inside Out 2.
For me.
Yeah.
Who's
judging who now, Dragon?
Welcome back, Dragon. I know we just bored you for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I heard you. I just wanted to clarify it.
Yeah, we will not be talking about Inside Out 2 for me.
Okay. Number 6, Dragon. What do you got?
All right. I kept my number 5 and number 6 kept flip-flopping, but at the end of the day, I think number 6 is going to be Juror number 2.
Okay.
So, possibly Clint Eastwood's Swan Song. It's great. Again, I think it's a great premise of, it's kind of it's a heck of a way to revitalize kind of 12 Angry Men. You're going to have Clint Eastwood take a stab at it. It's the ultimate moral quandary in a very, kind of ethically ambiguous situation. Like, what the heck is somebody going to do in this situation? Love the ensemble cast, J.K. Simmons. And here's the one no one's ever going to talk about. Okay, Cedric Yarborough was very good in this movie. He's a journeyman.
He's definitely a standout character for sure.
Because I've seen Cedric Yarborough in a lot of things. He's a good voice actor, but I mean, beyond that, I mean, he's always been like a supporting player. So we're kind of doing that here, but he's never been like a supporting player like in a feature like this. And I think it really, allowed him to, I hope it really gets his name out there. I hope this kind of takes some places because he's a really good actor. Anyway, Eastwood, he loves putting good people in tough situations, and this movie kind of thrives on it. Like we've seen this kind of thing in like movies like Sully and Richard Jewell, in which these are people who did a really good thing, and yet the system is kind of like putting it under a microscope or like putting them really between a rock and a hard place, and we kind of do that here. I love how like I was on the edge of my seat in places during this movie. Like wondering, oh boy, what's going to happen? I tell you, man, it's a real hat trick in a courtroom movie. Courtroom movies are notoriously difficult with this sort of thing because it's always like an A or B verdict. Of like, it's either going to be guilty or not guilty, and rarely do we not see it coming, because again it's a 50-50 shot, but because you can usually predict the way it's going to go, and I think this is the first in a long time where I don't think we really know how things are going to turn out.
Well, to be fair, Dragon, I don't think you got around to seeing Anatomy of a Fall last year.
No.
Yeah, that to me is like the definitive, like, how the fuck is this going to play out?
Well, still for this year, though,
Yeah, for this year, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, if you've ever wanted to watch a bunch of French people argue while PIMP by 50 Cent plays in the background, though, Anatomy of the Fall is your movie.
And then also the prosecuting attorney in that movie looks so much like Eminem.
He does.
And then also fucking that was I think that was the same month that fucking Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes came out, and then Snow just looks inexplicably like Eminem at the end of that movie. All right.
Can I ask a really dumb and random question?
Sure.
Do you think Eminem actually likes M&Ms? I mean, you have to imagine at some point in his career he would have factored, maybe I should try making go for a branding.
That's literally when I first heard his name on the radio as a kid. I literally thought it was spelled out.
I know, right? That we all thought that, but
I thought
do you think at some point he would have taken the misnomer, maybe ran with it from a commercial perspective?
I always thought it was the M&Ms. Like I always just pictured the red M&M.
Imagine Eminem went to that little the M&M I forget where it is, but that little M&M store where they show they go through the history of the M&M and a bunch of them at the end, like a little tour, like that thing.
Is that on Times Square? I want to say.
I think that's the one at Hershey Park, but it might be.
I think there's a couple of them, but I think there's one major one.
M&Ms are not Hershey, sir.
No, that's it's not Hershey.
No, but they weren't. Hershey Park had some M&M stuff.
Bullshit.
I want to say there's one in Vegas and there's one in New York, but I could be wrong.
I swear,
because I've been there. And I've not. Sadly, I've not been.
PerGron Hershey M&M is a Mars brand. It's not a Hershey.
It's
brand.
Been a minute since I've been to Hershey Park.
All right,
I might be wrong. I
don't want to say you're wrong, but you're wrong.
Yeah, you're very likely wrong, PerGron.
I probably am.
They got Kit Kats, they got Reese's, but those are Hershey brands.
Right. Maybe there used to be one near it. Anyway,
point being,
at least for a Super Bowl commercial, you'd think him and the M&Ms would hang out together.
Oh, dude! Oh, I would live for that. That'd be
right.
Billy West and Brad Garrett.
Wait! Hold it. Who do you think Brad Garrett is?
Isn't he the yellow M&M?
No.
Who's the yellow M&M?
J.K. Simmons.
Oh my god! Oh, I don't know why I thought it was Brad Garrett. I'm sorry.
Anyway.
Sounds kind of Brad Garrett-esque. I'm sorry.
Well, it sounds a little, but it's J.K. Simmons, man. That was a big claim to fame for J.K.
Okay.
Simmons. The yellow M&M. How dare you?
My mistake.
Anyway. All right. Point being, turn number 2. I do think it was really an impressive one, Eastwood's film catalog. I thought it was kind of a surprise highlight towards the tail end of the year. The release was wonky as all get out, but it was a good movie.
You know what? I'm just glad they put it on Max as soon as they did.
Yeah.
That kind of won back some points for me. I still think it was a ridiculous situation, but
I don't know what Eastwood was thinking.
It's not nearly as ridiculous as fucking Sing Sing. Am I right? Oh my god, that's just insane.
Well, prisoners need entertainment too, Tiki.
Yeah, but like I still Sing Sing has still not come
Right now, all they
anywhere
have,
near
all
me.
right
It's
now,
a ghost.
right now, all the prisoners have is Joker Folia do. That's all they have right
Oh
now.
God! Oh.
Sing Sing is still locked up. It hasn't commuted its sentence yet.
All right.
Okay, Kogia says my number 6 is That Christmas. It's an animated Christmas film. It's animated by the most compelling sister duo since Anna and Elsa.
He's got to be screwing with us. I don't believe him for a second.
I mean, I've heard good things about that movie.
Yeah,
I've
Really,
not
you
necessarily
heard?
seen people put in their top 10, but he's only seen like 15 movies this year, so you know.
I don't buy
I
it.
thought it was all right.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. So my number 6 and Dragon, I'm kind of with you. I picking the 5 and 6. It's like it's hard.
It's Sophie's
Well,
choice.
yes, I'm respecting your choices, man. I'm with you. I think be like, especially because you've only seen so few movies. It's fine. All right. Yeah. So 5 or 6. I'm still not. Fuck it. I'm just gonna go with the movie that I think I'm going to rewatch more is going to be in my number 5. So with that in mind, my number 6 is going to be Anora.
Okay.
Yeah. And Anora is a very compulsively watchable movie, and honestly, I don't even really feel great with this being above The Brutalist because The Brutalist is like clearly a much more ambitious movie, and I think individual moments in The Brutalist are gonna stay with me a lot longer than anything in Anora, honestly. But Anora is probably like the more consistent movie. I still think it's too long. Like this movie could have been like an hour 45 minutes and it's like 2 hours 20 minutes. Like it's really didn't need to be as long as it is. But yeah, across the board the cast is obviously great. I definitely think it's Sean Baker's best looking film. I just generally speaking, I really like the look of this movie. Obviously Mikey Madison is a freaking sensation in this movie. The ending is definitely one of the best endings of the year. It's really hard, especially on a rewatch. I think on a rewatch I was able to like really appreciate everything with what was going on with that ending and those two characters. I don't really have a ton to say about this one. I really respect it. Again, if it weren't for the runtime, I would say it would be more rewatchable than I actually think it's going to be. But I do want to watch it at least one more time. The screwball comedy element of the initial hostage scene is just like some of the most absolutely ridiculous comedy I have ever seen on screen. And the fact that it's happening in a sequence that could very easily be like super dark is just great. I love that kind of like playing with tone that the movie does. Like generally speaking, I really think that the movie really excels at like it's definitely a comedy first and foremost, but you still really get you really get into Anora's head. You really feel for her. You really, and you feel the loss that she feels when the turn of events happens in the second half. I feel like much like The Brutalist, this is probably like the main reason why I put this above The Brutalist. Is that much like The Brutalist, the first half is kind of like building up, like the Brutalist was building up the American dream in the first half. This was kind of building up that sort of like Pretty Woman, like happily ever after fairy tale for Anora in the first half, and then both films kind of spiral at the end. But I think Anora, the spiral happens a lot more naturally, and the ending is way better than The Brutalist. I'm sorry. Definitely a worthy pick. Not quite there with my top 5, but still a very good one. Very much. I would be totally okay with this winning Best Picture. I'm actively rooting for Mikey Madsen to win Best Actress. I'm sorry, Demi Moore. I think it is a better performance than Demi Moore's performance. I think if Demi Moore wins, she's great, but it's going to be more of like a legacy performance.
Yeah,
it's going to be more of like a career performance win.
Right.
No, I think
so you wanted more from Demi, is what you're saying.
Right. I mean, I think the best performance, the best female, like the person who really should win, if we're really stacking up like just pure performance talent, is actually Lily Rose Depp. But there's no way she's getting nominated. So,
No.
All right. Number 6 for you, PerGron.
All right, we got The Wild Robot.
All right.
I know this wasn't one that you love, Tiki.
I
But-
honestly think it's just like How to Train Your Dragon and Lilo and Stitch are like so personal to me
Uh-huh.
that it's hard to put another Chris Sanders movie in that kind of regard.
That's fair. I love both those movies as well, but I adored this movie. I went into it, honestly, I was really disappointed going into it because I watched that initial trailer with no dialogue and I was like, this is gonna be the best movie ever.
Well,
then-
little did you know that flow was right around the corner.
But yeah, the animation here is gorgeous. I do think that this has the best voice performances of the year. I really liked Pedro Pascal as Fink the Fox. I thought he was transformative in that role. If you asked me who plays, honestly, any of these characters, I would not have been right, except maybe like Bill Nighy. But Lupita Nyong'o does phenomenally as well as Roz. I thought Roz was going to be really annoying. I was really worried Roz would be annoying, and she did not end up being annoying for me. I also thought the movie was going to be about, we got to get the goose on migration, and then that happens at like the second act. Like it very much surprised me. Really, the only thing keeping it out of my top 5 is I don't love the way it ended.
Yeah.
I like the ending itself, like where they reunite. But I didn't need them, like other robots, to ransack the island. Honestly,
Right. It's very much kind of like one of those, like, well, we gotta have an action scene for the climax, right?
Like, I think this was
really don't.
I think this was a perfect family movie without it.
Mhm.
Like, honestly, if the ending was them saving all of the other animals during the winter, like that scene had me in tears. Saving the other animals like during the winter. If that was the end of the movie and she just died there, I think that would have been like a perfect movie. I didn't need the robot. Like they could have even woken her up or whatever. But the Bright Bill brings batteries or something. But yeah, I didn't love the robot invasion, which keeps it out of my top 5. But like for an animated movie, there's only one that beat it this year. We all know what it is. We'll talk about it here in a second. But yeah, I really did love the Wild Robot. Yeah, and everyone should watch it.
Okay, cool. All right, moving into the top 5, baby. Top 5. Dragon.
All right. Number 5. Again, I was on the fringe at 5 and 6, but at the end of the day, I looked into just kind of the I don't know, it's the most of it. The amount of times I've been hyping this movie up this year, just kind of felt like, well, man, I've been really talking about this a lot since it first came out, so I should probably put it in the top 5. Rebel Ridge.
Yeah, I really respect that this is in your top 5. That's a really solid call.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I remember ever since I saw that, I was like, oh my god, did you see Rebel Ridge? It's amazing. And
I think it's genuinely got one of the best opening scenes of the year of any movie.
Oh, absolutely. Again, this one just really stayed with me. You know, it's it's not the standard Netflix action thriller, which I think was kind of like the dread whenever you click on that carousel, it's like, oh god, it's gonna break my heart again. It's just gonna be it's a good like little kind of dose of adrenaline, then it's gonna wear off, and it's like
right,
we're back to square one. But there's genuine tension here. Aaron Pierre, he earned Green Lantern with this. I remember barely. I heard like
I'm
murmurs
really
of, like,
excited to see him in Green Lantern after this. I think this was like a great kind of like standout performance from an actor that I previously did not know anything about.
So I had seen him in another DC show actually, but that's the thing. Like, he was unrecognizable. He was so young in that show, and yeah, he's younger. He's a young man, but he was younger there. It was like it was the Krypton show. He's a friend of kind of the L family.
Mhm.
But yeah, he I don't know. I heard murmurs of like I couldn't quite place it. I knew it was like, oh yeah, the movie had come out and there's like, oh yeah, so there's talk of like, John Stewart casting. It was like a blurb. I didn't really look at it that deeply. So I'm watching this and I'm thinking, man, this guy would make a great John Stewart. Then I looked at the article after the movie. Oh my god, yes, he should absolutely. If he's in the running, he should absolutely play John Stewart. Then a few days later, he's the guy. So yeah, they have a character here who's a very simple and direct goal, and he's extremely reasonable about it, despite the system just being completely against him and just dumb, corrupt, racist cops. Just they bring the beating on themselves here. They really do. They bring
Dude, I
everything
got
that
so
happens.
viscerally pissed at the moment where the one cop like literally like throws the gun into Aaron Pierre's car just so it could be like, gun!
Yeah.
I was like, you son of a bitch.
Mhm. I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie was Don Johnson's a great foil for Aaron Pierre, and so the two of them play off each other fantastically. The tension is just, again, it's so palpable.
He
This
honestly should
moment
have been in the running for best villain at the Golden Tikis. He's great.
Well, wait a minute. Why wasn't he?
Honestly, because I hadn't seen the movie by the time we did the nominations.
I knew it was rigged. Anyway,
I definitely would have nominated him over everyone. This is kind of a meme at this point. Ruth from Wars of a Snail. The character's so memorable that I literally could not find a Google image of her.
Unbelievable. Anyway, point being, I think one of these scenes of the movie is when Don Johnson's character, he's basically, after something really bad happens to the Aaron Pierre character, after he basically his very simple achievable goal goes out the window in a very brutal way. Don Johnson has this thing where he basically takes him to the edge of town. He basically strikes a deal with him, just like, okay, look, we screwed up. Like, take the money and run, and let's just part ways. And I just love everything about that scene, and just like the fact of like, it feels very Tarantino-esque. I don't know, something about it.
The whole movie's kind of got like an early Tarantino movie.
Well, it's honestly, it's kind of it's a bit of Tarantino, but also a bit of Albuquerque verse in terms of like the reasonability there, and it's a little bit of that. But you're right. There's definitely some Tarantino with the Don Johnson of it all. There's some Tarantino there, but anyway, the third act. I love the third act. Like a relay race to the end, and again, basically, this was the most, without question, this was the most engaging Netflix movie of the year. Possibly of the last couple of years, but let's just say, again, going to Klaus being, that was like, at the very least, that was like predominantly, that was like the Netflix movie ever, honestly.
I'm still partial to Mitchell's versus the Machines, but I hear.
Well, I'm saying, I guess going back in time, that's what I'm saying. I believe, what was it? Mitchell's came out after Klaus.
Mitchell's was 2020, I want to say.
Okay, fair points. And since Mitchell's versus the Machine, that might order screw up there. But that's what I'm saying. It was like a really big win for Netflix this year. I don't think anyone saw it coming. It was just excellent thriller.
All right. Okay, let's see. Kogia says my number 5 is Peter 5'8". What? Do you know what this movie is, Dragon? Or PerGron?
Why don't you ask the guy who's seen like 300 movies?
Sorry. This one I haven't seen.
Oh, really? This is the one you haven't seen?
Yeah, this is the one.
It's an engaging surprise. Do you even know about it?
I've heard the name.
You're 5'8". I got nothing. It just sounds.
It's a Michael Zyko Hall movie. It's got a 2.6 on Letterboxd.
Oh wow!
With a majority half star. Stars Kevin Spacey. Ooh.
Oh shit! Okay,
well, that would explain why no one's heard of it.
Go Gias, respect your opinion, but Kevin Spacey is a piece of shit and he should not be platformed. All right. Anyways, yeah, wow, that was a tone shift.
Well, there you go.
Do you hear me physically bite my tongue?
Right. Oh god. All right. Number 5, Inside Out 2. Look, when it comes down to it, is it as good as the original Inside Out? No, probably not. But honestly, Anxiety might be in my Mount Rushmore of Pixar characters. She really might be. She's really up there. I mean, for me in particular, like, it's so therapeutic to me to have a character like that in pop culture that so many people responded to. like, I mean, I'm just gonna straight up say, like, anxiety is the reason why this movie's in my top 5. I mean, that panic attack scene is honestly, like, it doesn't pack as emotional of a punch as the ending of Inside Out does, but I honestly think it's even more cinematic than the ending of Inside Out with the whole get off the bus thing. Like, I mean, it really dials in. It's a harrowing, like, it's, for me, I'm sorry, I think it's a way more harrowing depiction of a panic attack than Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. That one's realistic for sure. I mean, I will give it points that is a realistic panic attack on screen. The one in Inside Out too, it's realistic from Riley's perspective, but obviously it's, exaggerated in the mind. But yeah, anxiety, clearly a big reason why I do love Inside Out 2, why it is probably, if I were to rank the Pixar movies, it'd be on the lower end, but it'd probably still be in my top 10 Pixar movies. But also, I'm very impressed with this movie for the amount of balancing the characters. I honestly feel like the distribution of screen time is better in this movie than it was in the first movie, where in the first movie, I feel like the emotions that got left in headquarters get a little bit shafted as far as screen time goes. This movie, it's really not the case. Like, and the 3 new emotions that aren't anxiety, yeah, they're a little, they don't have a ton to do, but I think they all have memorable bits. And she doesn't have a lot of screen time, but I think she does have some of the biggest laughs in the whole movie. So yeah, the distribution of screen time, I really like the fact that all the main emotions are together throughout the movie. I think that was a really good choice on their part. It's kind of like the opposite of what sequels usually do, where it's like, hey, we have this really well-developed group of characters with good chemistry. Let's break them up, because that always works, right? That's always a good idea. Season 2 of TV shows usually do that too. I don't get why they do that shit. But yeah, and then also I just think this movie, just creativity, as far as creativity goes, it's a playground, man. It's a total creativity sandbox, and I love it for that. I mean, there's like so many cool ideas and concepts at play here. I mean, again, it's like maybe not quite as potent as the original Inside Out, but again, with the original, we're discovering this world for the first time. I really think that a lot of the stuff they did was just like really, really, really creative, really high energy. It's a very memorable movie. I honestly love the fact that this movie is the number 1 highest grossing animated movie of all time, just because it's a genuinely good movie. And if something does deserve the title, this does deserve the title certainly over The Lion King 2019, which is genuinely one of the worst fucking movies I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, Inside Out 2, I think, is a worthy inclusion to the top 5. I will certainly be rewatching it time and time again. And like I said, anxiety just is such a standout. Like, when I think of 2024, just as far as like the characters, I mean, she's going to be right up there with fucking Harrison Van Buren. All right. PerGron, you're number 5.
Yeah, my number 5, I've got Flow.
All right. I'm honestly, at a certain point, I was like, wait a minute, is that going to be his number 1?
It is not, but I could make a case for it. No, I adored Flow. This was the movie that I have been waiting my entire life for. This was a silent animated film with realistic animal noises as they go on a biblical adventure. This was perfect for me. I think that they got the animals' mannerisms and sounds perfect. I have a black cat, and this cat acted like a black cat does. I've worked with capybaras. I've worked with ring-tailed lemurs. I don't have a golden retriever, but I've definitely interacted with plenty of golden retrievers. And while I've never worked with a secretary bird, I've heard stories, and all of these animals are just done perfectly. I think that cinematically, like, this has some of the best cinematography of the year. It's why I nominated it for a Tiki. The sound editing here is perfect. It's just, this movie was made for me, and if other people don't love it that much, this is one of those movies where it's like, yeah, I get it. I
Mhm.
can understand why this would maybe
Again,
not
I
be
really
your thing.
respect it. I just don't see myself rewatching it. I don't see myself
Right.
getting that much out of a rewatch.
I think this is one of those movies that if I'm looking for something to like put on visually in the background
Hmm. Hmm.
while I'm doing something, just something to look at, this is the perfect movie for that. Like, I do like the animation style. I thought it was interesting. It's not the best animation of the year. The Wild Robot, I think, would take that for me pretty handedly. But yeah, I really loved Flow. I was looking forward to Flow when I saw it doing really well at was it TIFF? One of the um festivals. And I was worried it wasn't going to come to me. So when I saw it locally, I was very excited to be able to get a chance to go see it. And
Sure, sure.
yeah, I'm happy that it was able to make my top 5. I
Cool.
think in another day, I could possibly swap Wild Robot and Flow. They're
Mhm.
pretty much like kind of like you guys fighting for that 5 and 6 spot.
Yeah, the 5 and 6 spot is tricky. I remember having a hard time with that when I did my Great Disney Ranking podcast.
Well,
Uh
remember
huh.
the hardest spots are always 10, 11, and 5 and 6.
Right,
Uh
right.
huh.
Also
It's the
1 and 2, but
transitional spots.
yeah, and 1 and 2.
All right. Okay, yeah, going right towards it. Dragon number 4.
The Wild Robot.
All right.
Mm.
I think the Wild Robot is like the sleeper hit of 2024. It's Chris Sanders, working his magic. Which he hasn't really had to, it really hasn't had to work since How to Train Your Dragon. I love the idea of this modern piece of user friendly technology stranded in the primitive wilderness. That was the sell for the movie for me. Just like when I saw, like, okay, there's his idea right there. Okay, so like the robot, just like we established what the program of this thing is, and just like, oh god, it went off course. It's in the wilderness. Uh, yeah, just there's a lot of I love as per usual with anime movies, as movies in general. I love the logical logic, and I think there's a lot of that in this movie where it's like, okay, well, if a robot were in this situation, what would happen? And it's like, well, this probably would happen. It would the idea like it would learn the languages of the animals. It would take forever, but it would do it. And this is the kind of stuff that really like I was very engaged and sucked into this movie. And I just love the theme of the arc of this corporate product develops maternal instincts and, in essence, a soul. Um, like this is what we want from DreamWorks, which is almost like a roller coaster of quality at times, where sometimes you'll get this and a Puss in Boots, and sometimes not. So yeah, I really liked it. It was a good in theater experience of just like kind of taking a chance on a DreamWorks movie, and it just it panned out very well. It was a good kind of like adaptation of the book, so it was very good, very solid.
All right, cool. All right, my number 4 is going to be probably the movie that had the most emotional impact on me the whole year, and that's going to be My Old Ass. I still don't really. I'm still not crazy about that title. I honestly it doesn't sit right. It's a hard movie to recommend just based on the title alone. Honestly. But man, here's the thing. I wish that I had this movie in my life when I was like 18, 19 years old. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like I wish that this was a coming of age movie for me because this was like a throwback for me to movies that I loved in that period of time in my life. And honestly, I think it's better than most of them. Like this movie is so much better than Garden State. Holy shit. Like Garden State is one of those movies that I adored in high school, but looking back on it, I'm like, no. Just no, just all around no. That movie is so cringe, I can't even deal with it. And maybe this movie will be cringe in 10 years. Who knows? But for now, I really love it. The two things that stand out for me is I just think the romance in this movie is so well done. The chemistry between the leads are like it's just infectious. And that monologue, man, that Chad has. It's a brief monologue. It doesn't go on for too long, but like where he's talking about how you don't remember, like nobody remembers the last time that they played pretend as a kid, and how it's like, you go your whole, like it's such a pivotal, playing pretend is such a pivotal part of childhood, but no one remembers the actual last time you did that. And man, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I will never forget in the theater my emotional reaction to that monologue, dude. It destroyed me. It was just like, oh, holy shit, that is like deeply profound, man. I wish more people were talking about that line. I mean,
Yeah.
it hits me. It hits me like deep. It hits me to my core.
It hits you where you live.
Yeah. Aubrey Plaza is just phenomenal in this movie, and she is not getting nearly enough credit. I mean, she has genuinely the most tear-jerking performance, especially in like the last scene that she has. It's just like it's so emotionally impactful for me. And again, with real life circumstances, it's just like I feel like the real life circumstances are just going to cement this movie and this performance. But yeah, the coming of age elements are fantastic. Again, I'm genuinely jealous of kids that get to come of age with this movie. Because I just think the lessons and the emotions in it are so potent. And also I'm just a sucker for movies set on islands. I've always been. It's just a weird thing with me. And so this is, it's got that in its favor. That's kind of one of the reasons why it was a throwback for me to movies that I loved when I was a teenager.
See, when Tiki was a boy, he was left alone. He watched nothing but Gilligan's Island, and it left him empty.
I mean, more so Survivor, Dragon. Come on, let's be real.
Well, no, I'm saying Gilligan's Island was the start, which then led you to Survivor.
Right. That would be accurate, actually, as far as the timeline goes. I'm not going to lie.
It's just like the scene from The Cable Guy.
Oh God! Oh Jesus Christ! All right. So yeah, just incredibly impactful coming of age movie. I don't think the movie got nearly the attention it deserves. Like, it's not even like Hundreds of Beavers. Like, I don't really feel like a lot of the Letterboxd crowd is even talking about it, and they should be. Dee Dee's a great coming of age movie, but I think this is a coming of age masterpiece. And I will leave it at that.
Yeah, the guy with the neck beard who, when I left the mystery movie that this was, when he said anyone who likes that movie shouldn't be allowed to watch movies anymore.
What the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Well, Tiki, you heard him.
Yeah, so you're not allowed to watch movies anymore, Tiki, unfortunately. Sorry
Just
to say.
TV shows.
According to that one neckbeard who was really, really hoping it was going to be some, like, action movie or something.
Well, shit.
Wait, do you in fact know for a fact he had a neck beard, or you just
He did.
off the
No,
assumption
he had a neck beard. Because I was walking out, like, talking to my friend about, like, oh, I love that movie. That was a great movie. And this, like, neckbeard, like, he literally does the, like, finger on the glasses thing, like, and poses. And then he goes, anyone who likes this movie shouldn't be allowed to watch movies.
Are you sure it wasn't that one guy who was like who had that big rant about Parasite when he Best Picture won the Joker?
It fucking might have been. This guy was a Grace Randolph fan, I can tell you that much.
Oh god, man. I think it's so sad that Grace Randolph, like, it's such a fucking stupid ass reason why she said bad shit about Sonic 3. But she's the only one who actually has the nerve to say anything bad about Sonic 3. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, it's her and fucking Matt, what's his face from the Daily
that guy's a piece of shit on like a deeply fundamental level.
Yeah,
Grace Randolph is a living meme, but she's not really a piece of shit.
I didn't think I would stand on a fucking island with Grace Randolph and fucking Matt Walsh. I didn't think that the three of us would ever die fighting side by side on anything. But I guess Sonic 3 has brought us together.
All right. Really quick, Kogi, also go over your other numbers as we get to them, but he says I mentioned my number 4 in the first part, which is the Beetlejuice sequel. I also mentioned number 2, which is Wicked. All right. We'll get to his number 3, and we'll get to number 3. PerGron, what is your number 4?
My number 4 is Anora.
All right.
I love the screwball comedy of this all. Like, honestly, the first act was good. And I'm like, oh, this is like a great movie. I can see why it's getting Oscar buzz. And as soon as they break into their house, I was in. Like, this movie took me for a ride, and I was there for it. I love those 3 thugs. They were very like 3 Stooges type characters almost.
Totally.
Like the scene where I don't remember the characters' names, but like the head guy, he was like storming around looking for Ivan or Ivan, and he's like upstairs, and Yura Borisov's character is just like, "Hey." And she's like, "Don't fucking talk to me." That was the fun. And when he's like
I said, my first impression, I honestly feel like that. Like, my first impression of that character was that he was basically just going to be like a riff on that one joke, which is why the ending didn't really land for me as much as it should have the first time. And then I watched the second time, I was like, oh yeah, that's where they were going the whole time. That makes sense.
Yeah. I saw that one coming also, but like, I think the reason this is so high for me, I have not rewatched this movie yet. Because there is nobody I can rewatch this movie with. I was with family for the holidays, and I'm like, they're like, "Oh, what is like the best movies you've seen so far? Let's watch them." And they're looking at my letterbox. They're like, "Oh, and Nora, what's that about?" I'm like, "We're not doing that one." I'm like, "That's not one. We're not watching that."
I hate to say this, but I did see. Well, honestly, I think it's kind of cool that my grandma is so cool with this. I did see it. Grandma, and she is like, she literally, when we went to go see Carrot Top in Vegas, there was like a like kind of like the type of burlesque show that was in The Last Showgirl was happening in the same theater after Carrot Top, and my grandma was straight up like, you want to go to that? And it's like, I'm asexual as fuck, I usually don't care, but getting to go to one of those with my grandma, I couldn't pass that shit up. I was like, yes, grandma, let's see the fucking nudie show. Let's do it.
That's fair. See, my grandma is like this uber Catholic conservative woman.
Right.
If I brought her to watch Anora, she would have a heart attack.
My grandma was literally the cool mom that all the kids in the neighborhood would go to drink alcohol when they were teenagers. That was my grandma, literally.
Yeah, my grandma said, my grandma prayed for us when we went to see Conclave. So,
oh God, it's such a fucking tame movie.
Yeah, she prayed when we watched
literally
Conclave.
PG.
Yeah, the ending did not. She did not stand
fuck
for
off
that.
With the Jesus Christ.
Hey, be nice to PerGron's grandmother, Tiki.
I love my grandma, but also I've always said, like, if it's ever her versus me and the Gestapo's knocking on her door, she's gonna give me up.
I believe that. I believe that without hesitation. That's absolutely what happened there.
Right. But yeah, Anora, I love all the performances. I really do think that the second act is my favorite act of this movie.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
Like, I like the Three Stooges. I mean, I really like the stuff with the home invasion. I just don't. And honestly, some of the stuff with them running around looking for Yvonne is really funny. Like when he's like when he gets into that confrontation with the guys at the restaurant, that's really funny. I just think it goes on a little too long. I just think
I can agree with that.
A little repetitive.
I could have cut the third act, I think. Like, I would have been happy if instead of her getting on the plane for the annulment, she just they just did it there and then cut.
I feel that. Yeah.
I think that was the worst, like the slowest part of the movie for me. But I really did love the first act. I really loved the second act. Mikey Madison, I agree with you. I think that she should be the front runner for Best Actress. Like, it's absolute insanity that she's not. But yeah, I had a really good time with this one.
Well,
I'm
I mean,
excited.
if she doesn't win Best Actress, I mean, her fucking career's in the dumpster.
Right?
I mean, she
Yeah,
might
if
as
she
well
doesn't
apply
get
to be a
hard,
fucking janitor at that
if
point.
she'll be an actual stripper now.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Oh God!
But really, I think what put this movie over the top for me was the experience that I had watching it.
Uh-huh.
It was just a packed theater. There wasn't an empty seat in the house.
Yeah, I
It
didn't
was
have
all
that.
it was all college students and like 20 somethings, like so around my age, a little younger,
Yeah, I
but
didn't have.
around
In
in
Petaluma, nobody goes to see movies like this except for old people. I am
yeah.
always, always, always the youngest person in the theater by like fucking 30 years.
I was in the heart of Beantown. We were down in Boston, right on the Commons, and it was all like mass art students and stuff, and it was just everyone was laughing and cheering. It
That's
was such,
honestly one thing that I will say about The Brutalist that I forgot to mention, and I need to highlight this. The
mm,
Brutalist has a fucking bonkers sense of humor to it. It's not like wall to wall funny all the way through, but some laughs in the theater are just priceless. Like they're especially some of the fucking things that comes out of Harrison Van Buren's mouth are just like so fucking outrageous. I don't know. And then Adrian Brody reciting Peter Piper, pick a peck of pickled peppers. A many pickled peppers and Peter Piper pick. I hope, dude, if that comes out, that is one of the things that was AI'd, I'm going to be so sad. I'm going to be so sad. All right. Okay, is that it?
yeah. Yep.
Okay. Kokiel says his number 4 is Joker, which, yeah. I respect that movie. I respect the swings it takes. I think it's a more watchable movie than the first Joker movie just because of how batshit it is. Yeah, still.
I respect the director for making that movie as a big fuck you to everybody.
Right, right.
Like,
yeah.
obviously I hate the first Joker. I'm on record
Same.
saying I just fucking hate that movie.
I honestly
Um,
think it's a bad representation of mental health, honestly.
yeah, it's a bad representation. It's also like it got all the little white supremacists all up in arms for
Yep.
like 20 minutes. So I can't support a movie, even if the movie itself doesn't like support that. And I don't think it does. I just think that like it was such a disgusting like conversation around that movie. It's like The Last Jedi. I love The Last Jedi. I don't want to fucking talk about The Last Jedi with anybody really,
right,
because just
right.
the community around it just sucks. But I respect Todd Phillips for giving the finger to everybody, fans, haters, the studio, Joaquin
Literally
Phoenix.
just like torching his career.
Yeah, he's just like, fuck you. I don't do sequels unless they're hangovers.
Oh, God. Because everyone knows Todd Phillips has the most fucking standards when it comes to right. Okay, moving on. Number 3, Dragon. What do you got?
Inside Out 2.
All right.
Oh,
Like
by
a
the
little
way,
jazzy cover.
I think I mentioned this to you once. In Dream Productions,
Yes.
we do have Inside Out tissues.
Oh, yeah, you did mention that. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, so Inside Out 2, it was the win that Pixar needed. The film could have easily, fallen by the wayside. But I tell you, man, I'm very proud of Kelsey, man, a Megas XLR director, who, he rallied the crew. They all had fun with it, and it led to a continuation that made sense. I revel with Inside Out. I revel in the cause and effect relationship between Riley and her emotions, and it's kind of the thing where you question, like, how much is Riley driving, what's going on with the emotions, and vice versa. How basically the two stories kind of parallel each other. The sarcasm's opening up while she's being sarcastic, but again, Ennuy's kind of doing this. I love this kind of like the heady stuff we do within Inside Out like that. So this was continuing that. So I definitely got what I wanted there. And then we kind of break the barrier with stuff like the panic attack scene. And my favorite detail in the panic attack scenes is the animation on anxiety, and just see like anxiety, like the creepy tear falling from anxiety, while she's just like, again, too paralyzed to move. Oh, it's fantastic. it's a film. It's a film that's steeped in kind of while animated is steeped in authenticity, and that's the key to what makes it a great animated movie. It's like it's authentic to the human experience. In this case, the teenage girl experience, which again the biggest competition this movie has. Like, hey, we did a movie already where a girl turns 13. I don't know, we should do that again. And then they did that, and it was. Here's the thing: we knew it was a lock. I think we knew Inside Out 2 would be okay, but it to be good, and let alone being the highest grossing animated film of the year, I think is just that's top marks. That's great for him, and I'm pleased as punch about it.
It's 0 out of 10. No references to 9/11.
Oh God. All right. Okay. Cool. Yeah, my number 3. And I just want to say, this top 3 is fucking stacked.
Yeah,
Genuinely, some of my favorite films of the decade so far.
of the
Man,
decade.
yeah,
All right.
I'm having a hard time even now. And again, it goes back to that rewatchability factor.
Lock that shit in, Tikus.
And number 3 is going to be Dune Part 2.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, dude. I know.
See, what you should have done is put it number 2, given it is a part 2.
Here's the thing. It really does just come down to rewatchability. And granted, I will watch this movie any day of the week on a good movie theater screen. It's just not the type of movie that I can pop on at home, whereas the other 2 movies are movies that I can. So that's really what it comes down to. When this movie came out, I made the incredibly hyperbolic statement that it was literally the best film that I'd ever seen in my life.
Yep. Every
I still
time he's always
maintain-
making those statements. Every time when the new movie comes out, it's the best one ever.
I still to this day maintain, this is the best movie theater experience I have ever had in my life. Dune Part 2 in IMAX was just something else, man. It was something else. It was incredible. But again, the problem is that it's still a really, really good movie. I mean, the character work, like, I don't think Paul Atreides was really that great of a character in Part 1, but like, holy shit, he's like a super compelling character in Part 2. And obviously with Part 1, you need the setup. But like just the arc of Paul Atreides, obviously the filmmaking at play is just phenomenal. Some truly, truly spectacular shots and set pieces. It's all wonderful. It's all awesome. It's like I feel like I've said everything I need to say about this movie. Again, it really just comes down to the rewatchability factor. That's it. That's the only reason this isn't above the other 2 movies on my list. And I honestly don't know what else there is to say. I mean, this is still a masterpiece. This still is one of the defining movies of not just the decade, but I would say of just the post 2000 cinema in general, like of the century, like of the last 25 years. This is up there. This would be in my top 10. Honestly, this is probably in my top 10 of all time, where I don't necessarily know if I would place the movies that are above it in the top 10 of all time. As far as legacy is, again, it really just comes down to the rewatchability factor. And it's so hard to pick. It's so hard. But yeah, I'm going to lock it in at number 3. I don't feel great about it, but that's how it goes. All right. PerGron.
So I appreciate that little conversation, but you know what it was really lacking? It was really lacking just a fuck ton of beavers.
Yeah,
So,
nice.
So at number 3, I've got Hundreds of Beavers.
Respect.
I love this movie. This movie was not in my top 10 a couple weeks ago. It was probably like pushing like 11 or 12.
It honestly, that's funny you say that because it was in my top 5 a couple weeks ago. It has moved around a little bit.
Yeah, I rewatched it because my friend and I are currently writing a movie. and we wanted to like look at small independent made movies and kind of get some inspiration.
Mhm.
And I forgot how good of a fucking movie this is.
Mhm.
It's just such a blast. The conversation of it being a live action Looney Tune cartoon is kind of tired at this point, but that is what it is.
That's
Like,
exactly what it is. Yeah.
I can't describe it as anything else. It is, these people had a vision and they executed it flawlessly. Do I agree it could be shorter? I do.
Mhm.
Am I happy it's as long as it is? I am. Is it a little long? It is, but I will sit down for the entirety of it pretty happily.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's a blast. And as someone who's looking into making amateur film, it really is an inspiration for what can be achieved on a shoestring ass budget. Yeah, I really did adore this movie. Dragon, I think it's right up your alley. I think you should watch it. I also think everybody on Earth should watch it. You have no excuse.
And again, folks, this movie is free on YouTube. There's
You don't have to
literally
pay
no
for it.
excuse. There is no excuse to not watch it at this point.
If you're watching this, you can watch Hundreds of Beavers.
And not even like a shitty like YouTube. No, it's like it's the movie. It's the official version. Like it's there. It's right there.
Yeah, I went with my friend to watch this in theaters, which was a lot of fun. I pre-ordered the Blu-ray, which is coming in a wooden case, which is a lot of fun.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
So yeah, I really enjoyed this movie, and I'm happy to say that I was able to put it into my top 3.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. All right, moving on.
So Tiki, I figured out your top 2, or top 3, or top 2. Yeah,
top 2. Yeah, top 2.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
Dragon, I think I figured yours out too.
Yeah, big.
I don't know what order.
Yeah.
Tiki, I think I have your order pretty.
I'm sure you probably do. Yeah, you know me. You know my tastes. All right. Okay. Number 2, Dragon.
Okay, so this was a really hard decision. The number one, like I said, the three tough ones for any list is going to be the 11 and 10, the 5 and 6, and the 1 and 2. So I made a distinction at the end of the day, and I feel bad still because it feels like I'm not giving this the proper credit due. But again, there is a distinction. So what I'm about to tell you is what I think is. I really, at the end of the day, I had to subscribe to just entitle like favorite film and best film. Okay, so this I think is the best film, but we're doing favorite films, so that's what my number one's going to be. Okay,
I think that pretty much gives it away right there. Go
that
ahead.
locked it in.
Yeah. Go ahead. It's fine.
there's number 2 by very very narrow margin because I do really love this movie. Super / Man, the Christopher Reeve story. Yeah, this is easily best documentary of 2024. I was so hyped for this. I was very lucky to have seen theaters because this came out on Christopher Reeve's birthday, which coincided with the Baltimore Comic Con. So unfortunately, plus I think it was like a limited release job anyway. So I don't think it was in the cars. The movie did so well and was so well received. You got a wide release, and I absolutely had to see this film. It was it was a kind of a surprise during the year. That's why it wasn't like on the list. I think we did like the anticipated movie list last year because it was kind of like a surprise.
Honestly, a lot of times that'll happen. Where I like Challengers wasn't on my most anticipated. Hundreds of Beavers certainly wasn't on my. I had no idea that movie existed.
I learned about that one from Shea Frillis, I think.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
So yeah, this is very much in the vein of like, Won't You Be My Neighbor? And so, as you can probably guess, this will not be getting the Oscar.
Dude, it better fucking. I mean, it's not going to, but it better be nominated, even though it's not going to.
Have we met? No, it's not going to get nominated.
No, they hate popular people. They like. They like war documentaries about people suffering.
Oh my god.
And that's it.
I mean, here's the thing.
Basically, yes.
I rewatched this movie today. I had friends over and we rewatched. I showed them this movie, so I love this movie. This is again, this is about how Christopher Reeve became, a symbol, much like Superman, the character had become. Again, it's very much like the thin line between, Superman, the redefinition of what makes a hero. Um, Again, I love the story is told from the Reeve family's perspective, from the kids and the family and the friends and the editing. Oh my god, the editing blows me away at this movie because it is so effective and so freaking clever. Just these the home movies and it's edited so flawlessly. It's so engrossing. There were some heady moments, like we have this moment where Christopher Reeve and the family are like they're watching. We have a misdirect in the editing where we're, because again, Christopher Reeve had recorded audiobooks. So with that, we have like him in his own words talking about his whole life up to pretty much like probably a year or so before the end. So it's like him talking about the accident. We see an example of the accident. Only it's kind of a reveal. Like no, that's not him falling. But we pan. So you're thinking, okay, there's a little bit of a clever misdirect there. But then we pan back and we say, oh my god, that's him and his family, like back, before the incident, is watching this TV, and that was captured on home movie. That is like chillingly, just oh my god, that's so heady. But and again, there's so much build and anticipation, like you're kind of white knuckling at certain points because the tragedies coming up, and then the fact we have all the rear window footage with the whole popping example. Like, oh my god, it's the only hesitation. Again, this is not why is it number two. Is like the little pet peeve I have. This is why on earth couldn't we use the Smallville episode in this one? Like the very profound, I guess, the passing of the torch moment that he had on that show. Why couldn't we have used that clip somewhere? But though the movie's so good, it didn't need it. I get it, but it would have been really cool. Anyway, again, this. Again, there's so much awe and dread in this movie at the same time. It's so dichotomous and wonderful in that respect. Man, I've been this psyched about a documentary on a top 10 list since the Happy Happy Joy Joy Ren and Stimpy story documentary. In terms of like a documentary, it could have easily been number one.
Sure.
And again, easily, I will say this again. Just one of the best. Again, brings me to near tears and like fighting. I have to fight back tears when I watch this movie in certain points. Like the moment where, again, the fact that in death, his goal of helping the paralyzed, the paralyzed walk is the fact that he, that's for me. That's what gets me at my core. Is the fact that he wasn't able to see it, but he did help people walk again. Like, it's Superman healing the sick, and the Oscars aren't going to care about that at all. He made people walk again. They're not going to. What do you want?
Just like, meh.
What do you want, Academy? What miracles do you need now? You need a cure for death? Is that it?
We want another sad movie about the Ukraine invasion. That's what we want.
Boo-hoo!
Right.
Anyway, so again, just easily best documentary of the year without question. Just possibly, I would honestly, objectively, I would have to say it's the best movie of the year for me. It's just fantastic.
Okay.
I think the part that hit me the hardest was when somebody said if he was still alive, Robin Williams would still
Glenn
be
Close.
alive.
Robin Williams, just in general, his whole presence in this movie was just
the thing that I kind of forgot about until the rewatch. One of my rewatches was Robin Williams and his wife Marcia. They bought Christopher Reeve the van, like the transport van, which by the end of the movie. Is then gifted after his passing. Is gifted to this kid who wasn't able to go anywhere. Yeah. Anyway, so just top mark, chef's kiss of a phenomenal documentary that everyone should check out. Everyone, this is like required view. It's a sad view. It's a bittersweet because it's hopeful and sad at the same time. But you need to watch this.
And then Hundreds of Beavers for a package.
There you go. Exactly. There's your pairing.
All right. Okay, my number two, you can pretty much guess it. It's going to be Emilia Perez, baby!
Of course!
Yeah! No, obviously
Fucking
not.
imagine if you did.
You know what, PerGron? I was honestly halfway tempted to do like a long con fake out on you where I talk about like doing Emilia Perez during my stand-up, but then like kind of like sowing the seeds of like, but you know what? I'm not gonna lie. Doing the stand-up made me think about the movie and like I kind like, like just kind of like planting the seed, just a little bit, doing a little inception on you, right? Like, wait a minute.
Right. It's clearly not number 2 though, Tiki. It's clearly number 1.
Oh God. Christ, could you imagine? No, my number 2 is obviously going to be a complete unknown. And look, here's the thing. I feel like I feel guilty about the fact that all of my top 3 movies have such a fucking stupid like 6 degrees of separation connection. Obviously, my number 1 has Zendaya. My number 1 also came out like a month after Dune Part 2. But I'm not going to lie, my OCD ass brain, that's one of the reasons why Dune Part 2 is number 3 and not number 2. It's just that my OCD ass brain did not want to just not change that top 2 literally the whole year. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
Yeah. Like, but no, I mean, by and large, like, Dune Part 2 is absolutely the more impressive, towering filmmaking achievement. But yeah, as PerGron alluded to, like, I am like a super fan of Bob Dylan among Bob Dylan super fans. Like, I'm like such a super fan that I'm basically like an old fucking boomer hippie when it comes to my love of Bob Dylan. And I think this movie just nailed it. I genuinely think it's the absolute best music biopic I have ever seen in my life. I feel pretty confident about that, honestly, just because, like, honestly, out of all the music biopics I've ever seen, like, there's been some good ones. Like, Love and Mercy comes to mind as a really good one for sure. Mm-hmm. But this is the one where, like, I didn't just have, like, this is a movie moments. It was kind of like a this is a movie, which is a very redundant sentence. I'm sorry. No, but, like, I just think, obviously, I am totally biased with my love of Dylan, right? I'm so fucking biased. And I'm genuinely curious how this movie would play for someone who had like a passing interest in Dylan, maybe just like knew some of the hits, liked the hits, but didn't really know his whole career. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, Timothée Chalamet is absolutely transformative. Like, I really like how when the movie first starts, it's like, okay, yeah, it's obviously Chalamet, but he's doing a good job. He's got the voice down. It's fine. But then as the movie goes on, especially like in the second half, it's like, no, that is Dylan. That is Dylan on screen. Like,
as soon as he gets his leather jacket.
The leather jacket. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there are so many moments where I'm just like, oh my, I mean, this is just like perfect. This is just, it's so accurate. Fuck you, Fantano. Fantano's literally like, he's like, well, he didn't have that exaggerated of a voice when he was speaking. And I'm like, yeah, it's called a fucking movie.
The enemy of the podcast, Anthony Fantano, Dave Filoni, and Grace Randolph.
Hey, we talk about Filoni in a positive light here, okay?
I do not.
It's a ridiculous light, but we make fun of him, but we love him.
I love Clone Wars and Rebels, and that's where my love of Filoni ends. But that's okay. Dragon, if you haven't watched the Skeleton Crew final recap, don't.
Please, oh God, don't even.
I beg you not to, but yeah.
Now he's going.
John, wait, what did you two jokers do?
Well, we didn't talk about Skeleton Crew.
It was like a half-hour podcast. We had like 10 minutes of discussion on Skeleton Crew with that.
And most of it was about how much we loved Neil.
Yes. All right. No, so one of the things I really like about this movie and that I think is super effective and not many music biopics actually do, it lets the performances breathe, dude. Like, and that is such a distinct directorial choice. That's honestly like one of the, like, James Mangold, like, he's one of those directors, like, I certainly like movies that he's done. Obviously, Logan is a pretty big achievement in the comic book movie sphere.
Mhm.
But he's never been a director where his style has really stood out to me. But that choice to just linger on the performances and really let the performances play out and really give you a sense of what these songs were like for the time period, for the audience watching them. I think my favorite moment in the whole movie, I think, is when he's doing the times they are a changin', and the audience starts to get into it and sings along with the chorus. Like that's, I mean, I really like how I don't think nothing like that actually probably happened in real life, but it gives you the sense of what it was like to hear those songs for the first time. Just like when he does like a Rolling Stone at Newport. They weren't fucking throwing it's like almost like an SNL skit, exaggerated level of how much
Right.
being thrown on stage. But it doesn't matter. I don't care. It's a fucking movie, and it visually showcases just how radical of a move that was and how much it threw people off,
Right.
And that's the thing. That's what fucking Fantano doesn't get, is that this is a movie. It's meant to, yes, certain cinematic liberties are taken with it. Yes, Fantano, this isn't a documentary. But
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the parts that makes this movie so great is Dylan seemed to have very little input on it. Like him and his estate. Sure. Like the Queen, the Bohemian Rhapsody. I like that movie because I like Queen. I don't think it's a good movie. It's just like, oh, I like Queen music. Right. I can listen to this. But that movie really gets hindered because the fucking band was so involved in it that they're like, oh, we have to be the good guys. Nobody can make us look bad. I'm Brian May. I had a solo career too, but Freddie's the one who did it because he's dead, and we can say whatever. But I think the only thing I know,
one of the only things that Dylan insisted on was that the woman who Sylvie represents in the movie,
they changed her name.
Sylvie, but that's like pretty much it, and that was just kind of like a respect her privacy sort of deal,
right?
But yeah, I don't know. And Dylan, frankly, I don't think this was intentional, but he's an asexual king in this movie, dude. He really is. I really doubt it was intentional, but there are a couple moments here where I'm like, yes, slay king. This is where I'll leave it off probably. And again, I love the ensemble, like you said, Scoot McNairy, honestly, on a rewatch, that performance is so affecting. I think the dude literally doesn't say a damn word, but it's super. Except Bob, he says Bob. That's it. But yeah, Scoot McNairy is so effective. Edward Norton is so fucking charismatic in this movie. He's so funny. I love the dichotomy between how radical Dylan is and how stuck in the old-fashioned folkiness Edward Norton is. Mm-hmm. Literally, one of the things Fantano bitched about is Dylan never came on Pete Seeger's show. That's bull. I'm like, it's a movie, Anthony,
and that was one of the best scenes in it.
Yeah,
I love that scene.
It's a movie, dude. Not everything has to be 100% historically accurate, my guy.
Let's let Fantano make a Dylan movie.
Right. But no, I'll leave it with my favorite asexual king line in the movie, which is kind of right around the halfway point where it does that little time jump, and he's at the party with that random girl. And honestly, when I first watched the movie, I went to the bathroom right after the Newport performance that ends the first act, and then I come back and he's with the random girl. I'm like, wait a minute, what the fuck did I miss? And I felt very validated when he has the line, and I love this line. It's one of my favorite Dylan lines in the whole movie, and it's an asexual king line. She's like, "I love you, Bob. Does that scare you?" And Bob's just like, "Well, I don't know you, so yeah." Oh my god! Oh, that is so me. I love that. Slay King. All right. Okay. PerGron, number 2.
All right, at my number 2, I've got Dune Part 2.
Oh shit, that isn't your number 1.
It is not my number 1.
He likes synergy, Tiki.
Okay.
Dune Part 2 was sitting at my number 1 for most of the year.
Right.
I do think it is a masterpiece. It's one of the greatest sci-fi movies of the 21st century. One of the best ensembles of the year. But I kind of don't have a lot to say about it. It's kind of just a movie that, like, we know how good Dune Part 2 is. We've had since last March to talk about how good Dune Part 2 is. And so I guess I'll just kind of leave it with, if you haven't already seen Dune Part 2, go see Dune Part 2. And if you have, you know why it's number 2.
Mhm. All right. I'm number 1. You're number 2. Right. Oh god. I literally was gonna say Dragon, tell us why Deadpool's your number 1, but then I was like, Deadpool! Tell us why
Deadpool was Dragon your number 1.
God. Dragon, go ahead. Go ahead. No judgment either. No judgment. Obviously we expected this, but I totally respect the pick.
All right. Okay. So my number 1, my number 1 favorite film of 2024. It ultimately boiled down to, again, there's the best and there's the favorite. I'd be doing a disservice to myself if I didn't put Deadpool and Wolverine at the number 1 spot this year, because this was easily the most hyped I'd been for a movie this year, and Deadpool, especially theatrically, Deadpool is very special to me, and the fact that like the first Deadpool movie was like a big highlight in my life, and the fact that I rallied for that movie, I tracked it for 7 of the 10 years it was in production, at least as far as it was like publicly like known and like greenlit. And it's just been such a journey. I never in a million years would have imagined we would have gotten like a trilogy of Deadpool movies, and finally we have Wolverine, and it was everything I could have wanted. Ultimately, it was a very happy moment for me. That, look, does it surpass the original Deadpool movie? No. At the end of the day, I still love the original was like lightning in a bottle. Like many like trilogies, many first films. Like, it's really hard to beat the first. I still think the first Deadpool movie is perfect. It's everything that represents that character. We never got any other movies that still would have told us everything we need to know about that character. It would have been fine. And I just feel very lucky that we were able to go as far as we have with the character, and just the what separates this from the rest is we have Wolverine finally in the yellow costume. It's like the only reason to bring Hugh Jackman back, and we did it. Everyone's been pretty blown away by it. Wolverine was very well characterized. We didn't just bring back willy-nilly. We didn't underwrite Logan. We know for a fact we didn't underwrite Logan with the opening of this film, which, again, I could have gone home happy after the opening, frankly. It's like, they did it. They nailed it. This is like the speculated gag, and, they nailed it right on the head. I think Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds have been getting along famously, and this has been the best of their collaborations. There's a match made in heaven. They really get each other. The joy I felt took me back to 2016. Like I said, it doesn't surpass the original, but it was just pure joy and happiness in that theater, just with the crowd just watching that movie, and just the fact that Deadpool's back, he's both he and Wolverine are in the they have like the Deadpool story time at the Disney parks now.
Mm-hmm.
The gripe that I have with this movie is that I'm iffy on the villain, but to be fair, the villains it's like a tradition in the Deadpool movies. The villains aren't really the eye catchers. They're not really the most well thought out. They're not really the big they work for the plot in the way they need to, but they're not the draw. Cassandra Nova, aside from getting a heck of a build up from a certain actor in that movie, not a lot going on there. She's fine. We get great responses to her. Again, by the end of the movie, Wolverine having his big his big speech, like, when I'm wearing this suit, I'm an X-Man, and just him appealing to her. It's a really great scene. I think she brought out kind of the best in everyone. She kind of brings us to our TVA stuff, so a lot of it worked out. We get the Deadpool core, we get the classic Wolverine suit. These are, again, we've covered all the Deadpool milestones with this. I never in a million years would have imagined in 2016, you told me one day we're going to get the Deadpool car, I would have said, you're nuts. So as big as this thing could have been, I like that we grounded itself in all the MCU expectations. This is like what Multiverse of Madness fell prey to, and Deadpool kept it simple. We kept it on the periphery. We kept it, we addressed the MCU has been on it. Phase 4 didn't work out well. We addressed this. This is like the lifeblood. This is the stasis that the MCU needed while they get their ducks in a row. They needed this win, much like Pixar needed the win with Inside Out too. It just the whole movie, the quote, what we said to the cavalry, it feels right. It just feels right, and it's making everyone feel good. Everyone's just been, I don't know. It was a positive experience in 2024. It was like the positive experience where I had the emotional experience with Superman. I have just, and Deadpool Wolverine, I have just, this just was one I've rewatched endlessly, and it makes me happy.
I mean, that's very fair, Dragon. That's very fair. Full
just
respect.
Makes me so happy.
All right. Kogia says Deadpool and Wolverine isn't in my top 10 because I can't stand Deadpool. However, I think Wolverine's really good in the film. Deadpool's right up there with the Guardians of the Galaxy. All of them? All of them for the most annoying character in superhero films? Really? And I hope that I don't get kicked out for it. I mean, no, we're not going to kick you out, Kogia. I'm just like, all of the Guardians of the Galaxy are collectively your most annoying? All right. You and Jacob Gulliver would get along. Full respect to Jacob Gulliver. Anyways, my number one is obviously going to be Challengers. It's pretty obvious. Here's the deal with Challengers. I feel like the stats speak for themselves. I saw this thing 3 times in theaters, and I have watched it 3 times at home. And honestly, even as far as like last week, PerGron, I don't know what the fuck happened with your rewatch. This thing gets better for me every time I rewatch it. I mean, this thing for me is so immaculately crafted. Just the screenplay is just ridiculously good. I love the jumping back and forth in time. I love the framing device of the tennis match. I love how the whole fucking movie is edited like a tennis match. It's so good. It's so energetic. The score, the 3 lead performances are all awesome. There's so much rich symbolism in this movie. The camera work is absolutely incredible. Yeah, I mean, this movie is just such a movie that fires on all fucking cylinders. And I'm so frustrated with the fact that this movie is getting by and large ignored at award season because it's such a damn good movie. And again, it's like I really feel like that ending, dude. That fucking ending. That ending is just everything. Everything. I mean, that ending is exactly why endings to movies can really make or break a movie for me. It's why The Brutalist is at my number 7 and this is at my number 1. I mean, just everything about it. I love movies that go out on that high note, that go out on that memorable climax that's punctuated by one final fucking shot, one final line that just ties everything together so fucking well. And this movie just does it. It's so good. Honestly, the first time I watched this movie, my first impression of the ending was like, wait a minute, that's kind of ambiguous. We don't even know who wins the match. And I'm like, but literally every other time I've watched it, I'm like, yeah, no shit, that's the point. It doesn't matter who won. She saw some good fucking tennis. She got what she wanted. Yeah, I love the shit out of this movie, man. I just, the characters are just, the 3 lead characters are all just so complex, so multi-layered. I'm literally never bored watching this movie. Nothing drags about it. I feel like every scene fits in its place perfectly. Yeah, it's up there. It's up there. It's just super memorable for me. And again, I feel like this movie, just by the very nature of how rewarding the setups and payoffs are, how much it goes back and forth in time, I'll never forget the first time I saw this movie, and it jumps back 13 years, and the actors actually look like they're fucking high schoolers. I'm like, how the fuck do they do that? Like, that is just, and they don't even really do that much. It's like, it's not like they have like de-aging makeup or anything. It's literally just the performances mostly. Oh, it's so good. So good. Again, 3 times in theaters, 3 times at home, and honestly, every day there's at least once where I'm sitting at home and I'm like, I kind of feel like watching Challengers. I'm not lying. I'm not lying. At least once a day that goes through my head. Maybe it's also just the fact that the movie just instantly, like, it hooks you right away. Like, even literally before the studio logos, it hooks you. Yeah, it's a goddamn perfect film in my opinion. It truly is. I wouldn't change a damn thing about it, and it's up there with the absolute most rewatchable movies of the decade so far. I mean, it's a fucking achievement for me.
Fair enough.
All right, PerGron, what is your number 1?
My number 1 shouldn't really surprise anybody, I don't think. Only one movie this year really stuck out to me to the point that I have not stopped thinking about it since I saw it. And that's The Substance.
Oh, duh. I don't know why I was like, trying to think. Yeah.
I love The Substance. This movie, I went to see it on a whim. I had a long, busy day at work, and I saw it was in theaters. I didn't even check the runtime.
Mhm.
I'm like, I kind of want to go see that movie. So I walked in, and I was enamored from the moment that I sat down. For you, Challengers is a perfect movie. For me, this is a perfect movie, or as perfect as one can get. My only criticism about this movie is the ending is maybe a little absurdist, but
Yeah.
I'm fine with that because this movie says fuck subtlety. Subtlety is a bitch, and I hate her. This movie is the least subtle movie ever, and I'm so cool with that. I think that the commentary here was brilliant. I think that the body horror here was brilliant. This movie made food the most disgusting thing ever. Like this movie didn't just make me not want to eat during it. This movie made me not want to eat like ever again. The sequence where Dennis Quaid is chomping on shrimp, the sequence where she's staring at Margaret Qualley's picture on the billboard, and she's just throwing together these disgusting, like Julia Child type recipes, and it's just slopping around. The music, even like a Pepto Bismol in a glass of water, was the most disgusting thing ever. And I really appreciate that. I thought the sound editing is honestly like this is the best sound mixing this side of like Eraserhead. Like that's how good the sound in this movie is. The performances, while I agree Mikey Madison should take it, if when Demi Moore takes it, I will not be complaining about it. I do think it was a great performance. I think Margaret Qualley was a great performance. I think Dennis Quaid had a great performance. I think everything about this movie was great. And I'm happy to see any horror movie getting awards buzz, but I'm really happy that it ended up being this horror movie. So yeah, I have to say, The Substance is not a movie for everybody. I would actually not recommend it to most people.
I
But
definitely recommend it to Dragon.
yeah, Dragon, don't watch The Substance. This is not a movie for you. You either, Code Geass, based on what I know about your taste. But for me, perfect movie. Absolutely adore it. So it had to be number 1.
All right. Okay, why don't we all go through our you don't have to do the full top 20, but just the top 10 one more time.
Okay. All right. So, number 10, The Fall Guy. Number 9, Woman of the Hour. Number 8, Hitman. Number 7, Transformers 1. Number 6, Juror number 2. Number 5, Rebel Ridge. Number 4, The Wild Robot. Number 3, Inside Out 2. Number 2, Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. Number 1, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Okay, for me, we got number 10, Nosferatu. Number 9, The Substance. Number 8, Hundreds of Beavers. Number 7, The Brutalist. Number 6, Anora. Number 5, Inside Out 2. Number 4, My Old Ass. Number 3, Dune Part 2. Number 2, A Complete Unknown. And number 1, Challengers.
And for me, we've got number 10, I Saw the TV Glow. Number 9, Heretic. Number 8, A Complete Unknown. Number 7, Nosferatu. We can't say it any other way.
Literally, I was going to say, it's literally impossible to say it any other way.
Number 6, The Wild Robot. Number 5, Flow. Number 4, Anora. Number 3, Hundreds of Beavers. Number 2, Dune Part 2. And number 1, The Substance.
Cool. All right. So tomorrow night, Dragon and I will be doing one last movie retrospective. It's going to be our annual top 10 most anticipated films of 2025. So that should be fun. Stay tuned for that. Keep voting in the Golden Tikis, everyone's favorite award show, and literally the only precursor to the Oscars that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing
it
else
matters more
matters
than the Oscars because we actually nominated challengers.
I know. Oh, Jesus. There's a lot of shit we actually nominated that the Oscars aren't going to touch. Doug Manchesky is getting an Oscar nomination.
We got them beavers.
Are the Angry Beavers?
We're a beaver-heavy award show.
They are very angry.
They are pissed. Yeah. These are pissed off beavers.
All right. Okay, Code Geass, sure, I'll read yours out. Number 10, Despicable Me 4. Number 9, Madam Web. Number 8, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Number 7, Inside Out 2. Number 6, That Christmas. Number 5, Redacted.
Oh, come on. Don't be a baby. Say the name.
Peter 5'8". I'm sorry. Number 4, Beetlejuice. Number 3, Joker Valladolid. Number 2, Wicked, and number 1, Superman. And to answer your question, Kogi, no, Superman wasn't in my top 20. I respect it a lot. I don't think it impacted me quite as much. But yeah, it's very good. But yeah, no, didn't quite make my top 20. Probably would have made my top 30-ish. But unlike this freak over here, I don't rank every fucking movie that I see in a year.
It was number 51 for me.
Are you 51?
I saw 358 movies, Dragon. 51 is a damn respectable spot.
All right, guys. That's
not even 50.